Hello and welcome to another live chat. I've changed the background this time, and I have a feeling I'm going to probably get a lot of angry people. I'll read out the backgrounds before people start joining. So it says aliens created humans, Jesus' father was Anunnaki, Atlantis was Heraclean, Great Pyramid was a power bank, spirits are light energy beings, 40 years of research, no, not from internet. So, yeah, there's probably going to be some people complaining and moaning, but so we'll give it a go. And so I've just started the live. Those of you that know me know that I'm the guy that does these videos where I purport to know everything. Actually, one person did say to me today, what was it? You debunk everyone and you think you know everything, and I'm like, I don't debunk everyone. I don't want to debunk people. My problem is when you see things and you know it's wrong, and then you get people telling me that I'm wrong, and I can prove with evidence that they're wrong. I guess so that person obviously didn't like me saying that. Gypsy Souls, what a cool name, has wrote, "How's it going, lad?" I remember when I used to be called a lad. I'm okay, thank you very much. Hope you're well. And Unity has wrote "sup" with a little finger sign, a peaceful finger sign. I'm cool, Unity. I hope you're well too. So I've put that in the background today, a different type of live I've done, because obviously I seem to get a lot of questions, the same sort of questions over and over, and I thought, well, I'll try and mix it up a bit and get some different new people that may not know things and ask different questions, etc. Wayne's joined. Hi everyone, he's wrote. Forgive me if you're not a he. The funny thing was, I did actually watch a video today from a guy, and I'll tell you, it was really good, really clever, about pronouns. And he said, there's no point in saying what your pronoun is, like them, they, he, she, whatever, because when you're talking to someone, hey, I'm a he, when that other person's talking to you, they don't ever refer to you as a he. They'll talk to you as you or your. So, hello, you, how you doing? What you been up to? They don't say, hey, what he been up to. You only use the pronouns in a third person. So, for example, you would say, oh, did you see what Joe did the other day? She went to the shops. That's the only time you use the pronouns. So, the guy was right when he's saying that by telling us your pronouns before we even start talking, you're literally, this is what he said, you're literally telling me your gender when there's no point in telling me your gender, because he would have called you, or same as me, I would call someone by their name or you. I don't throw in their they for the sake of it. So yeah, it's a very cool way of looking at it, and it makes a lot of sense. So Gypsy Souls is right, I'm good, thanks. We're going to discuss the Roman Catholic lies. Is there anything in particular that you want? The thing is, when you study all different religions, you'll find that they all end up with the same sort of thing, where God split up the earth and stuff like that. Which, if you go back to the older texts, we know that they split up the earth into 4 regions. So originally, I think all of the majority of them, I wouldn't say all actually, because things like Scientology obviously is a more modern religion that's still based off of the Anunnaki's escapades. But I think certain other ones like Mormons, and don't hate me if you're a Mormon, but literally that came along way later, and it was done by a guy that went around and said that the real Jesus or real God spoke to him and said all the other religions that came before me are false, which I struggle with that. Where was he when all those other religions? And if he wasn't around, then how did they make up these religions, knowing that there was a God? So you would have had to have been around. Thank you, Kerry. How you doing, Kerry? Oh yes. Let me. When I get to your name, I'll do what we said. Yeah. So if you're a Mormon, there must have been people with religion before, e.g., knowing that there was a God. So why wasn't it the God that the Mormons have? But if they weren't around, no gods were around, and only the Mormons suddenly appeared. But that doesn't make sense, because obviously he tells the person that he spoke to that he is the one true God. So that's why I struggle with that one. So yeah. Anyway, sorry. Trevor's wrote, so what's new, Obi-Wan? Really haven't watched any of the new Star Wars. Not that Amishka, whatever it's called. I don't know. How you guys finding the new Star Wars? Does anyone want to watch that new movie that they're doing called Ray? I don't. I've got no interest in that whatsoever. I don't know how you pronounce that. Sphequum. As wrote, I resonate. I'm not sure what I was just talking about a minute ago, but thank you. Cool. It has wrote, you are wrong. What we're talking about. All of the above, plus anything else that you want to chat about. Gypsy Souls wrote, laugh out loud, nice. Enki with a H-I at the end has wrote, Anunnaki with a little heart sign, bless you. Yes, as far as I'm aware, even British museums, etc., spell it with ENKI, but obviously there's other people out there that may have already had that username, in which case you may have decided to stick an H in it. Unless you know something I don't, I'd be interested to know. Matty Boys, or Anunnaki, made up name more like it. Actually, no, Matty. Now, if you're interested in learning, which you're not, if you're interested in learning, I have actually, I think I'm the only person that's ever bothered doing this, but that's because the kind of guy I am this week. So I've done a video, Matty, if you're interested. It's on TikTok, but you can just find it on my website, because I made it nice and easy. It's on the home page on my website, which makes it even easier to find. And I actually show where the ancient tablets have the word Anunnaki. So it's not, it predates the Bible, predates everything. So when you've got the actual word Anunnaki, and I show it many, many different times by many different translations, all with the same word Anunnaki, then it's a real word. So unfortunately, Matty, one of us, not going to mention any names, either you or me, is slightly more right than the other one. Brian Johnson's wrote, Jesus' mother was also Anunnaki. So I've done a video on who I think Jesus' father was. I believe Jesus was a hybrid of some description. Now, whether or not it was a hybrid from human or another source, I would probably lean towards... well, obviously, technically, Mary is his mother, so I guess technically you could say yes, his mother. But I think the when you say Jesus' mother was Anunnaki, I mean, if you're referring to Mary, then I would probably say no, from everything that I've learnt, because she wouldn't be walking. The Anunnakis, regardless of what position they were in the hierarchy of the Anunnaki, none of them were peasants. None of them were walking along with donkeys and stuff like that. They all, they all lived very well, thank you very much, type of thing. So I can't imagine an 8 to 12 foot Anunnaki walking along with Joseph as a 15-year-old girl called Mary and not figuring it out. But yeah. So if you're interested in my videos on who Jesus' father was, it was quite interesting. Again, put it up. No one's told me I'm wrong. Not with evidence. Well, no one's told me I'm wrong, let alone with evidence. So I'll be interested to know your thoughts on that. It's on TikTok. If you just scroll back, Unity's wrote Emerald Tablets. If it's a question, I'd like to sort of, because I don't know what you know about Emerald Tablets. So if it's a question, if you could put it in a question format, so I could at least answer, because I could just waffle on about the Emerald Tablets, and you'll be like, I know all of that, so I don't know what you know. Gypsies wrote The Lies of the Vatican and how they actually worship Satan. So I try to avoid any research that leads me down a road of sick, evil people, which you probably guess who I'm talking about there. And yes, they do seem to worship Satan. However, I have actually, thank you, Arrow Snow. I have done a video on Satan, on who I believe Satan is. It's on my Patreon page, only because it's an edited 31-minute documentary, using absolutely every single resource I've ever could find, and I think you'll find. I don't want to spoil it too much, but Satan isn't just one person in the biblical sense, and Satan was actually a new name as well. So the same as Lucifer was actually done in the New Testament, the New International Version, which was only done in the 70s. So, yeah, when you look at the Bible properly, and I mean properly, you need to just, if you're religious in any way, you'll struggle to look at it properly. But if you're not religious, you can look at it with a critical eye. And if you've got knowledge of how the Anunnaki worked and what they were up to and their texts, etc., then you can put two and two together and go, well, that makes a lot more sense than having someone that's with Jesus as Satan, and then apparently Satan was there in the Garden of Eden, if you believe in what the mainstream tell us. And of course, the two, well, one wasn't even Satan. One was actually described as a serpent, if you read that. But of course, if you read the Anunnaki text. But yes, bottom line is they worship something. Obviously, they may want to call it Satan, but obviously, if you do your homework properly, you realise that Satan isn't just one character. It was Anunnaki. I'm spoiling it here, but it was Anunnakis, basically, that were, well, I mean, you can just look it up, adversaries of whichever god that was an adversary of, because obviously the Anunnakis, there was 12 main gods, because their whole race name was Anunnaki, God, sorry. So, yeah, that's... So, but basically, you're right. They seem to worship something, but I try and avoid that, because it ends up where I have accidentally slipped down that road. It ends up with children, being involved and hurt and whatnot, and I don't like that. So I try and avoid that, I'm afraid. SPH has wrote, "I am Syrian alien," or Syrian alien. I'd be interested to know more on that, if you could let me know. Kerry's joined. Let me just do something. One sec. Sorry, I was just doing something for Kerry. There you go, Kerry, as we've discussed. Someone with a name that I can't read has put loads of laughing faces, as if I'm wrong in the background. However, those of you... Thank you, Kerry. It's alright, you don't have to do that, Kerry. Appreciate it. But you don't have to. Fraser's wrote, "My G." Not sure what that means. Then that person that did the laughing faces, I can't read the names. It's some sort of weird symbols. "Ask God when you meet him, or aka Jesus." So this person is obviously religious, not a problem at all. Now, this person, I wish I could had a name for this person. Are you aware of tablets that predate the Bible? Called Sumerian, Akkadian, Assyrian, Babylonian, etc. Are you aware of them? And are you aware that the Bible actually copied those tablets? I'm guessing you're not. Otherwise you wouldn't say that. Literally, anyone that I've spoke to that says things like what you said do not know about the older tablets. They really don't, because it's not their fault that they're brainwashed. But they don't know. But I'm letting you know there's tablets that the Bible copied from. And if you don't believe me, either watch my videos or actually do some homework. Just typing in, even on Google, did the Bible copy older text? And you'll find out there and then. So for me, the older text is always going to win over newer text. I mean, who would rather go with the newer text that's been changed by man than the older text that's written in literally clay tablets? I'll go with that every day of the week. Whoever's doing the hearts, thank you. You don't have to, bless you, whoever's doing that. Enki has wrote, "Even though Google is the worst." I think Enki was chatting to someone about to Matty Boy. So I think Matty Boy, yeah, they've been chatting. Sorry, so I ended up reading a bit there. Gypsy Souls wrote, "What's your opinion on the moon being soul collectors?" I don't think so. There's other celestial bodies out there. There's even we've got two moons technically going around Earth. So why not the second one? I know it's only small, but why not the second one? So then you got to ask yourself, well, who made up that story? Is there any validity to it? Because first of all, you have to prove that souls are being collected on the moon to be able to call it a soul collector. Now, I have heard from abductees and whistleblowers that little greys do, or do collect. I don't. It's wrong, probably the wrong word, but do have sort of cages with light energy beings in them, which is technically, if you want to call it soul, you can call it a soul. Now, if they're on the moon, which again, whistleblowers have said that little greys are on the moon, so if they've got the same cages on the moon that they did apparently, according to whistleblowers on the ships, if they've got the same cages on the moon that holds the spirits, the light energy beings, the souls, then the answer would be there is souls collected on the moon, but not necessarily the moon doing it itself, if that makes sense. Brian Johnson's wrote, Sumerian tablets, Mahabharata Bible, all kinds of texts about Anunnaki. Yeah, I mean, obviously, you sounds like you've done your homework. Yeah, the more you read them, the way I see it is the more you read the Sumerian ones first. I was looking before I even came on here. I was looking at whether they played games. I was looking at, and this is in the older texts. They had balls. They played with balls. They threw balls. I have no idea what they're made of, but the Sumerians played with balls. Now, was that Sumerian gods? I'm not saying it was the Anunnaki, but I'm saying the Sumerians played with balls. I don't know if they kicked them, they threw them. I read the part where they're throwing them. So you got to say to yourself, well, okay, we could have learned that. I mean, we could have made up a ball ourselves. But then when you look at, there's a board game that is highly complicated, and this isn't me making this up, this is the curator of the British Museum who has got said board game that come from Sumeria, and you got to wonder whether or not the Anunnaki introduced that type of game. I'm not saying they did, I'm just saying it's a highly intricate game and very clever and stuff like that. So you got to wonder what was introduced that we have evidence for, e.g. board games, etc. That is written about, such as in the Sumerian tablets, Mahabharata, etc., etc. That we don't, associate with the Anunnaki because we just think, oh, they're very clever back then. If you look at the Indian temples, I know I keep going on about the Indian temples, but the more I learn about them, and literally some of them were only 1,000 years old, apparently. The workmanship on it, we would struggle today, really would struggle. So how the hell did they do that back then? So I think the answers are literally staring us in the face. Jacquemus, forgive me if I pronounced that wrong. We are all just someone's science project at the end of the day. I can't argue if life itself is. Obviously, we've got text about how Homo sapiens were created. Unity's wrote, I saw a video that suggests we go into a hive mind after we die. So with the way I see it, because I've done a 3-hour documentary on spirits, etc., and I've spoke to clairvoyants, mediums, and blah, 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 and I've researched, more than most people, I would have said, in terms of spirits, etc. So the way I've described it is the light energy beings is an ocean. Then you take a drop of that from that ocean. So it's still technically connected to it, maybe in a quantum level. And then that drop gets broken up again into what they call a soul group. So I know people like the idea of a soul mate, but everything that I've ever come across comes out with a soul group. And that drop that breaks up. Let's just say it breaks up into 6. That's about the amount that I've counted. There may be many more, but from past life regressions and Virginia University studies, etc., 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 it comes out to about 6 that I'm aware of. So those 6 will go into people that you may know throughout your life. So one could be your father, one could be your mother, one could be a friend, one could be the milkman, and so on and so on. And when you all die, that soul group then goes back round again, and this time you're now the mother, you're now the father. So technically, the hive mind, I think, is possibly a good way of describing it, simply because when people can remote view, and they can see things that they shouldn't be able to see, if you believe in the remote viewers, then either one of two things happen. Either the orb that's with them, the light energy being, leaves their body ever so quickly and goes to wherever they're looking at, or the orb spirit that's joined with them onto the pineal gland is accessing remotely the hive mind of of another thing, another orb that's at the location, or goes to the location that you're trying to see. So yeah, I could see that. So yeah, I wouldn't say no to that. Main conspirators put the clapping hands. Good to be here with you. Our True History. Oh, bless you, main conspirator. I like your videos recently. Enkies wrote, can you talk about Jacob brother? I can't. I don't know what Jacob is. If I may do, if sort of said with whatever it's pertaining to, but as right off the top of my bat, I can't remember what Jacob is. Sorry. If you give me a little hint, sometimes I've asked people to give me hints, and then I'm like, that's the. But because sometimes I just don't remember every single name. Trevor's wrote, tell us about Anunnaki and Mary. I don't want to say too much, simply because I did a whole video on who Jesus' father was. It is available for you to watch on TikTok, so I don't want to spoil it too much, because obviously I go through the whole process, which is why I think people like my videos, because I don't mess around. I'm not just going to go who Jesus' father is. I go back and I say, okay, why is the Bible talking about only one God when we know Genesis 1:26 spoke about lots? So I go through the whole process of how at the beginning there was plural gods, and how by the time Jesus came along there would have been one God, or one God that wanted everyone to know that there was one God. So I cover all of that, and it leads you to a conclusion that the person that is Jesus' father had already done this before. And he done it with the Egyptians. You may know Tutankhamun's parents, Nefertiti, etc., and their grandparents, and I think their parents were the ones that was genetically created by the same person that genetically created Jesus, in my opinion, as they're worshipping one true God, which was Aten. And of course, anyone that knows anything about Amun-Ra also knows the word. If you're religious, please block your ears, you're not going to like this. Knows that the Bible talks about Jesus' father a lot, says his name a lot. Jesus' father, not God's, because when you read the Bibles, you realise they're not talking about Jesus' father all the time. But when it comes to the Jesus father, amen, there's your name. And anyone that does any research works out that amen is actually Amen. I won't bore you, but yeah, it's all there. Go watch it. Comments are available on that video, and no one's commented other than I can't remember, maybe someone saying brilliant or something. But yeah, Enkies wrote, Mary being a virgin was symbolism for genetic manipulation. Yeah, I guess it's possible. I've not looked at that side of it, but yeah, yeah, could be. Yeah, you might be right. Jay Cruz has wrote, so aliens slept with Mary. So if you look at the Anunnaki's history of what they did with genetic modification, first of all, us, we've got 2 fused chromosomes. So unless God decided out of all the other species of hominids to suddenly make us with fused chromosomes, which is done in a laboratory setting, then I've, on my other videos on my Patreon page, I've gone through and showed evidence that the Anunnaki genetically modified various different types of creatures, including mermaids and horses. So if you watch my video on my mermaid documentary, which is on my Patreon page, I show the evidence of mermaids, and then I show the evidence of the horses in that same video, actually, with skeletons, genuine skeletons that were genetically bred. And when I say bred, manipulated, not bred. So once you know that the Anunnaki manipulate, and even say it in their tablets, that they manipulate the creatures here using their essence, which we would assume would be DNA. Once you know all of that, then it's not such a hard stretch to think, hang on a minute, if Arton created, which I'm not going to spoil the person's name, go watch my video on, but Arton, who was the sun god, to do with Nefertiti and Akhenaten's family, and they've all got strange elongated heads. So when you realise that they were genetically modified, obviously, when you look at the hips, and they're just not normal. And of course, we've got evidence of elongated skulls that are not headbound. They have different sutras, etc., etc. So when it comes to Mary and who is modifying Mary, it's not that far a stretch to think, well, hang on a minute, it's already been done before. Monotheism, which was already done with Akhenaten's family, etc. Bang, comes along Jesus. Bang, he's telling everyone, once again, amen, one true God, which is exactly what the same Anunnaki person, who is his, I believe, genetically biological father, had been saying all along. So it kind of really makes sense to me. But watch the video, because I like people to watch it, because instead of me just blurting it out, because people go, that makes no sense. When I put all the evidence down, at the end of it, you hopefully should be able to go, yeah, he's nailed it, genius. I hope. Jay Cruisers then wrote, aliens slept with Mary, then wiped her memory. Not if they did basically beamed her up in some fashion where she was unconscious, because as we know, we wipe our memories. But it's a fair point what you asked him. But yeah, we we have that ability now to wipe people's memories, and genuinely we do. It's a blue type of light frequency. You can just look it up and type in blue light, wipe memory, short-term memory, and yeah, it does. So yeah, it's not that inconceivable really for a race that's smarter than us to be able to wipe someone's memory for a very short period of time. Or she was unconscious, one of the two, and obviously genetically implanted, not impregnated. FQT has wrote, can you briefly explain why we are here? What are we doing on Earth? So if you're referring to Homo sapiens, stroke Homo sapiens sapiens, then we were created, genetically modified by the Anunnaki from a hominid species that was already here. My estimate is Neanderthal. Everything matches up. I've been saying it for donkey's years. I think everyone's slowly coming round to my way of thinking, because all the other people that have said, such as Bashar and even Billy Carson and whatever, when they start saying Homo erectus, etc., and you find out that we've got 90, probably 100% of us have all got Neanderthal DNA, and only a small percentage have got Homo erectus DNA. And when I say 100%, I'm also referring to the black people, because if you go by Princeton University, they've done another way of figuring out DNA testing, and you can guess they have figured out that black people do have Neanderthal DNA. So when you listen to these other researchers that are telling you stuff, the logic, just without even having to use anything else other than logic, tells you that we're genetically from Neanderthals. Just pure logic, simply because we've got, pretty much everyone's got. So they needed a worker race. The Anunnaki needed a worker race to mine for gold. Now, I know it sounds stupid. They wanted to sprinkle it in their own atmosphere to help their atmosphere repair. Sounds stupid until you realise that Bill Gates wants to do it with chalk in our atmosphere. And then you think, okay, yeah, it's not so stupid now, is it? So they needed a race that would be able to follow their commands, and so that's what they've done. We ended up with fused chromosomes, which is why number 23 and number 24 are fused. And don't say it was God. And we came out over in South Africa. We've got the text. We've actually physically got the text. I've read it out many times. You can go read it yourself. Translations of older tablets where they're literally talking about 6 times trying to create the first one that didn't have problems. 6 came out all with different deformities. And the 7th was, hey presto, fantastic. The only difference was it had a foreskin, they didn't. And obviously the height difference, they were 8 to 12 foot tall, and we was, I don't know, probably 5'5" if we're lucky back then. So yeah, that's what we was there for. Thank you, whoever keeps doing the hearts. Scrolling on, Sierra, forgive me if I pronounced your name wrong. Enki's wrote, sorry, Searah wrote, Enki tricked humans into thinking they were God, and Enlil informed Eve that we're all immortal. Enki tricked humans into thinking they were God. Well, if you actually look at the text, that's got to be their race name, gods. It has to be. Just like we're human, it's not no problems there. You know, we go to another planet and we're superior. Eventually, they will look at us as deities if we were superior, and that's their race name, gods. They called themselves gods and goddesses. So I can't see them making up a god, calling themselves gods and goddesses if there really was a god, because we don't have their race name, obviously, other than gods. So yeah, I would say out of all the texts, every time they talk about themselves as gods, it's just because that's their race name. And then Enlil informed Eve that we're all immortal. Well, technically, if Eve was the first person, obviously you were aware of Enki, but I mean, from a religious point of view, block your ears if you're religious. From a religious point of view, if Enlil told Eve then that we're all immortal, then technically there should have only just been Eve and Adam. So there was no others to tell that we're all immortal. But from what you obviously know about Enlil and Enki, so you're aware that there was 200,000 years prior to Adam and Eve with the first Homo sapiens over in Africa, South Africa. So Enlil informed Eve that we're immortal. I've not come across any texts of that. I'm guessing that's something you've sort of concluded yourself, but I've not come across any texts, ancient texts saying that. So if you have got any evidence of that, I would love to see it. So yeah, thank you for that. User 85 has wrote, you keep saying believe, provide your evidence if you are truthful. Oh, I am truthful. Probably the only one it is. So the evidence, I mean, if you can pick a particular thing that I was saying, but the evidence is actually done on my videos. And if you're religious and you want to watch the video where I show that the Bible copied the older text and is talking about the Anunnaki, you could be the very first person out of tens of thousands that's now watched it to actually say, here's the evidence where you're wrong. You could be the first person to prove me wrong. Ain't going to happen, but you could be, but ain't going to happen. So the evidence is there. It's just what seems to happen is people that I point and say, go watch that video. So, and if you're interested to find it very easily, just go to my website, outruehistory.co.uk. Scroll down on the homepage and it says, here's the video that proves that the Bible's talking about the Anunnaki. Go watch it, come back and tell me. And that's only 30 odd minutes. There's hours worth on my Patreon page, but I only needed 30 odd minutes. To be honest, on TikTok, they're only done in 10 minutes because TikTok won't allow any more than 10 minutes. So I was expecting people to try and debunk me on the first 10 minutes, let alone 30 minutes. None, not one. And you know why? Because I do my homework and I'm truthful. And the reason why I say I believe is because where I don't have the evidence, I say I believe, which is a fair point. So you can't knock me for that, because if I don't have all the evidence, I will say I believe. And I'm very careful on that. I won't do what other researchers do and make it sound like, it's 100% fact. I will not do that. There's no point in doing that. Thank you, whoever's doing the hearts. I can tell. Oh, thank you, Donna. How are you, Donna? The lovely, wonderful Donna, who pops up every now and then. Thank you for that. Yeah, sorry, whoever's doing the hearts, thank you. Thrown off there. Atreides, maybe the UFOs made a donkey sound. Not sure what that's referring to. I'm guessing that's to do with Bethlehem, but not quite sure what that's referring to. User 85 again has wrote in capitals evidence. Go watch my videos. Funny thing is, with that person, is they've got no picture and they're not even got a username. So let's have a look. And no followers, no likes, and follow 6 people. Dust one smell a troll. Oh, matron. So yes, evidence. Go watch my videos. Come back. Tell me where I'm wrong with evidence. You can't just say you're wrong, because that's just a guessing. I've showed the evidence. Money Over Men has wrote, watch the wire files for 8/31/23. That's American date. This will blow your mind about reptilians also. I have watched the wire files videos. I'm not sure which one that particular is. To do with them. I do watch the wire files. I like the guy very much. I think he's great. I've caught him out a few times. Not his fault. He just hasn't done the research properly. In fact, one of them was about the hominids, who the hominids were that the Anunnaki would have genetically modified. So he unfortunately done a rookie mistake there. And he's going to do it. This is what worries me. He's going to do a whole video on the Anunnaki. Oh, I beg him to talk to me. And I'm not doing it because I'm big-headed or anything, but I just don't want... Because if he puts one out and he's got things wrong, I will have to. And I don't want to. I like the guy. I think, I love Hecklefish. I think it's brilliant. I laugh. I enjoy his videos. I really do. But I can't have people saying wrong things if there's evidence out there to prove... I don't want him to put a video out when there's evidence so I'm not sure which video you're referring to. Jay Cruz has wrote, Prophet Muhammad was attacked by an alien in a cave, ? You're going to hate me for this. I try not to look into Islam, etc. And hear me out for a second. It's only whenever I mention Islam, I get a weird kind of hate. An evil, angry kind of hate, regardless of whether I'm giving evidence or not. And so I found it easier just to move away from it. It's a shame. It kills me, because obviously that's got it. The Quran talks about the babies getting the spirits, the souls, 3 to 4 months in the mother's womb, which is exactly when Virginia University studies the clairvoyance, mediums, etc. It's when, so they're right, but I can't go into it, because if I say something that someone doesn't like, I get that I will be unalived, and that's really sad, because that's to me that's brainwashed, that they won't be prepared to, literally will want to hurt someone if they don't like what they hear, and that's very sad, because there's other people out here that do want to, listen. But so forgive me. I hope you kind of get where I'm going with this, but I'm trying to be tactful. But it's a shame. I would love to debate and go through it all, but people don't want to hear. Like, I did a video showing that there was a person way back, a very high up soldier called Muslim Illy, and I did that video, and of course there was a few people that didn't want me around anymore. And that was just me showing, and I tried to be polite in that video. I sort of said, hey, look, there's no names for Jesus, or there's no names for whatever back in ancient texts that I've ever come across. However, there is someone that had a lot of influence over people that could have ended up ruling over people, and his name was Muslim Eli, and obviously, yeah. So you get what I'm saying. Uh, Atrides has wrote, "This is fact, sunshine. This is fact, sunshine, meaning me. UFOs made donkey sound." I'm not sure which UFOs you're referring to, because obviously there's many different types. And the way you've put sunshine, it's back in the olden days, for those of you who don't know, certainly in England, if someone didn't like someone, they would say, "Oi, sunshine, get over here." It's not normally said in terms of endearment. It's normally said as in, "I don't like you." I might be wrong, but I'll just reread it again then. "This is fact, sunshine. UFOs made donkey sound." I think we can all take from that the tone that it was written in. Witchy Woman, Witchy Woman 2, I must say it all properly. Thank you, whoever's doing the heart, has wrote, "I read Stairway to Heaven. Please don't play the guitar. Some I can see, but I think Adam and Eve were apes. So there is my opinion," I'm guessing that says. Well, the beautiful thing is, literally, obviously you're not aware of it, but we do have the actual tablets about Adapa and Titi, which is Adam and Eve, that predate the Bible. So the Bible obviously copied those tablets badly, or not necessarily those particular tablets, because there are many different tablets from different perspectives of them. But yeah, so we do have them. So no, they were basically, Adam and Eve were the genetic offspring, which is why we've got Homo sapiens sapiens in Africa. Sorry, not in Africa, in Mesopotamia. So basically, the humans that they created back in Africa 300,000 years ago, 200,000 years later, they actually started breeding with those humans in Mesopotamia, which just gives us the Rh negative blood, gives us the olive-skinned European people, all at the right time, 100,000 years ago, and it gives us the very first lineage of Adam and Eve, which was Enki's first children. And the reason why they were written about compared to the other Homo sapiens in Africa is they were just workers, but Enki was a prince from their planet Nibiru. So when he had kids, he wrote down their lineage, which is why we have Adam and Eve, Cain, Abel, Seth, and so on and so on and so on, because they were all offspring from even Noah, which was Zazudra, was an offspring off of Enki. He had relationships with Lamesh's wife, which makes sense because, again, the colour of Noah and their skin colour and whatnot, and the white hair. Guess what the Anunnaki? Guess what Enki looked like? The god that we all know in the in the who's it? Who done that picture? Sistine Chapel. Yeah, you know the one where the two hands are touching, but he's got the. I normally know the name. It's gone now, but yeah. Enki. Oh, right. Thank you, Enki. Enki's wrote Yakab is Enlil. That's probably why I didn't know it. I'm not sure where people's got that name Yakab from. Then for Enlil, you said tell you about. If I remember correctly, you said tell you about Enlil. Obviously, I'm not particularly sure what part you're referring to on Enlil. Enlil was, so I don't know how much you know, but Enlil's obviously the half brother of Enki. Enki fancied a particular woman, didn't get her. She ended up going off with Enlil. Apparently, Enlil was the better looking one. So when I make the movie, fingers crossed, I have to make sure that, in fairness, that Enlil is the better looking one. But hey, it's all subjective. And anyway, she ended up going back to Enlil after all of that and marrying Enlil, but she had kids with. Sorry, she went back to Enki, but she had kids with Enlil, and Enki tried to have kids with his half sister in order to keep his bloodline going, but that failed with Nimna, and then Enlil then ended up having relationships with his half sister and having kids, which was Ninurta, which is why he's next in line for the throne. Enlil, bit of a sod. Later on, he had relationships with a very young child. Got banished. Got reinstated. Long story. Enlil was the one that we know as the Israel god. He was the one that was in Israel. That's where the Temple Mount has his temple covered over, rebuilt over, which is what's there now. But if you go underneath that, you'll find it was Enlil's temple originally. He was the one that blocked off the waterways that caused the 10 plagues of Egypt, which wasn't the plagues of Egypt. I seem to be the only person that's worked out from the tablets, again evidence, that the actual 10 things that was done over in Israel, and the aftermath ended up in Egypt, and that's where it was written down. Evidence is there, just no one else has bothered looking at it or putting two and two together, which is why I sound very big-headed. But when you look at my website now, on my homepage, I start listing all the things that I'm the only person that's figured out. It's getting a long bloody list, and until someone tells me I'm wrong, woohoo! So I don't know what else you want me to talk about Enlil with. So I don't. If you had more of a direct question, I'll be answering. Gypsy Souls wrote fair. I'll check that out for sure. Cool. I can't remember what I said. Sorry. Collector's World has wrote accept me. I'm guessing you meant on the live. I was only going to do this for till about 9 o'clock, and I'm just having a look. You're not there now. Ciara has wrote aliens tweaked our DNA and genetic to switch off the worship gene. I would struggle that we had a genetic gene that would deliberately worship something. Sherry, if she's listening, will go mental at that. The fact that we actually, because if we have a worship gene, then why can't monkeys? Why can't chimpanzees? Why can't? I really can't see us having DNA that allows us deliberately to, I can't see that. Sorry. Unless you've got evidence that there's a gene that actually manipulates worshipping, a toggle switch, shall we say. Atreides has wrote maybe aliens mated with Tony Blair and offspring with Boris Johnson. I'm wondering if that's the same person that said Sunshine. Let me have a look. Yes, it was. So, hang on. Atreides then wrote after saying that about Tony Blair, etc. Sorry, I've been listening for a while. You are absolutely amazing. Oh, thank you, Atreides. Sorry for being a numpty and saying stupid things, Sunshine, etc. Please block me for being a numpty. Okay. Only because I waste my time reading out silly comments like what you've done there. So I will block you. But thank you for the very kind comments. I appreciate that. Thank you. Ciara has wrote, they dumbed us down. Yes, I would agree that they lowered our age. Now, to dumb us down would be illogical to start with, because obviously they wanted us smart enough to carry their baskets and understand commands, etc. So they would have wanted us as smart as possible. Then when they bred with us, the byproduct of them breeding with the first Homo sapiens was a smarter being, according to Zachariah Sitchin's book, The Lost Book of Enki. According to that, Enki said that the offspring that he had with those Homo sapiens were more civilized. Now, take that as you will. Now, the logic would be, you know, if you genetically modified a species and then you're already really smart yourself, like the Anunnaki, and then you physically breed with them, then yes, I would say that the offspring would probably come out slightly smarter than the. So for them to have dumbed down their own offspring would be illogical as well. The only time they would have probably dumbed us down would have been after the flood, when there was only a handful of us left. Now, would they have dumbed us down? Now, that's where they cut the age to 120 years. Obviously, with our food and pollution and whatever else that we eat now, I don't think many of us ever reach 120, especially with what's in the water. I won't go into that now, but yeah. So I'm not sure they would have wanted to have dumbed us down, or particularly. And then Sierra has wrote, "We're reclaiming our spiritual sovereignty." That implies that we had it originally and was aware of it originally, if we're reclaiming something. Thank you, Nebosa. I can never pronounce your name, can I? But thank you for the heart. So if we had it originally, we would have had to have been smart enough to understand that we had spiritual enlightenment in the first place. I can't see that. Sorry. I can't see that we would have had it originally and then lost it by the Anunnaki and then reclaimed it again. Especially right now as well. Back in, let's just say, the 30s and 40s, people had seances where they could communicate a lot with spirits, etc. Now, no one does that. Back in the 30s, 40s, we had the Ouija boards, spirit boards, etc. People were communicating with spirits a lot. Now, we're on our phones. So, I think right now we've lost our... When you say spiritual, I'm referring to light energy beings. We've lost the abilities to want to communicate with them in the same way we used to. Funny enough, that you remember that silly person that was doing stupid things, saying stupid things, Sunshine, and mated with Tony Blair and stuff like that. Just scrolling down, he'd wrote, where is it? Are you going to block me? So he clearly knew that he was being a numpty in order for him to write that from a logical point of view. Because I wouldn't write that if I didn't write anything stupid that I thought someone was going to block me. So at least he was smart enough to work out... Sorry, it scrolled all the way to the bottom now. I don't know why. That's annoying. I hate that when that happens. Thank you, Melaine. It scrolled to the bottom. I don't know why. Maybe someone... I did see someone wrote at Our True History. I wonder if that's... just trying to figure out why I scrolled to the bottom. I don't know why. Sorry. But now it's Mr. Chunk of Questions. I hate it. It's not my fault. It's the way TikTok work. So I'm now back to the top, but I'm nearer to the bottom of the questions. Forgive me. This is live. So I've missed a chunk now. I would like to have seen what that other person carried on saying. VV's wrote, where are your videos, YouTube? So in the description in the background there, it has ourtruehistory.co.uk. That's my website. I have 1,000 odd videos on TikTok, but it'll take you ages to scroll all the way to the bottom. So on my website and on YouTube, but you can get to YouTube from my website, I have done them in sets of 5 and sets of 50. You can also search for something particular, Atlantis or whatever, on the search bar. But if you want to watch them in order, because I tried to do certainly the first 900 in some sort of order that's chronological in time frame wise. So if you did want to watch my videos, go to my website. You can either go from there, as I say, to YouTube, or you can just watch them straight off the website. Click on the videos, click on the 1 to 50 or 1 to 5. If you want to watch 5 in a go, watch that one. They're approximately a minute each. So if you watch the 50-minute one, you're looking at 50 minutes if you click the 50 sets. And as I say, there's thousands, over 1,000 odd videos there. So enjoy. People chatting to each other. Kevin Wright has wrote, "Salvation is though Jesus is not an alien." Laugh out loud. Sorry, salvation is through Jesus. The thing is, Kevin, he hasn't done a great job so far, has he? Let's look at the evidence. Let's look through the keyhole. So we've got World War One. Didn't quite do anything for those poor people. World War Two. Hang on. World War Two. Jesus. Yeah, he wasn't there either. Okay, the Genghis Khan Wars. Yeah, no, he wasn't there. Joan of Arc could have done with him. She actually saw a UFO, but not Jesus. So at this point, Jesus hasn't really helped in terms of salvation. And the next question I would ask you, Kevin, is what's he going to do when he comes? I've done a video on this, and I put it on my TikTok. No one's answered it. All these religious people, and I did it because of people like yourself. Not knocking you, it's up to you what you want to believe. But don't tell me that Jesus is going to come here if you can't even tell me what he's going to do. Is he going to make me a cup of tea? No. Is he going to wipe out the elites? No. When's he coming? What's it going to take for him to come? You haven't got a clue. And I mean, again, not knocking you, but you haven't. Otherwise, people would be saying it all the time. They'd be going, Jesus will come on the second day of the... You know, they'll make up things like, well, the mark of the beast and all this kind of stuff. Is when he'll come. And, you know, people have been saying that for years. People were saying that in World War One. It's the mark of the beast, the German sign, blah, blah, blah. You do realise that, don't you? That people genuinely thought that was end times. However, if you're interested in finding out about end times, I have done a video on the Book of Revelation where I show, with evidence, I'm good at that, with evidence where literally what it's referring to in terms of the weapons that the Anunnaki used in the Book of Revelations. You're going to go, there's no such weapons. Read it again. Oh, you mean where it like splits mountains in half and destroys half of 3/4 of the land? Yeah, those weapons. Yeah, I see what you mean now. So they were weapons. Of course they were. Unless God decided to... And where did they come from? Space. No, heaven. Hang on a minute. Space is heaven. Yeah. So they come from space. Well, they come from up high, yeah. So the problem is then, if it's from heaven and we can see heaven... Did you know we can see heaven? We can see heaven. You know why? Because it says so in the Bible. You're going to say, don't be daft. No, it's true. If you read it in the Bible and in the older texts. Sorry if I'm sounding facetious. I just get so wound up with people telling me. So in the Bible it says we can see the sun, the stars and the moon in heaven. Which means we can see heaven, everybody. Woo! Or it's space. Because back then the word for space was heaven. All makes sense now. So, Kevin... Do you still want to say salvation is through Jesus, even though you have no knowledge whatsoever of him coming back, him helping in any shape or form? Or do you now, where it said Jesus is not an alien, laugh out loud, do you want to retract that and say, do you know what, I'll have a watch your video that shows Jesus, who's Jesus' father, and chances are, out through history, you're probably going to be right because you've just totally destroyed me. That's no problem, Kevin, sorry. Didn't mean to. Noah's Ark has wrote, How did aliens create humans? So in their tablets, which we have that predate the Bible, the gods, the Anunnaki. So the Anunnaki, just to help you, is a name that was given to those that came from space to Earth, heaven to Earth. And the Ajiji were the younger Anunnakis, which were given the job of called the Watchers, which is what translates into, which, hang on a minute, that was in the Bible, the Watchers. Oh, wow, that means they're the ones that came down and stole human women. Sons of daughters of man. Yeah. That makes sense now. So in the tablets, they basically say that they use their essence. Now, there is a whole thing on actually how you can get essence, but I doubt if it's the essence that we're referring to. In order for us to have essence, we need to a pea in a jar, and it's long process. It takes a few years. Various different things have to be done to the pea in order to get the essence at the end of it. Long story, won't bore you. So I doubt if that's what they're referring to. It could be, but I have a feeling it's some other sort of essence, such as DNA. And then they ended up using Nimna's womb. They didn't want to originally, according to the Lost Book of Enki. Thank you, whoever's doing the hearts. They tried to use the hominid, which I still say is Neanderthal, and that kept failing. And then in the end, they needed clay. They had to start and use our own products. So basically, from what you read between the lines in the Lost Book of Enki, it basically says that their equipment with their, sterile, get it right, equipment wasn't good enough, and so they used clay. And apparently, I don't know if this is true, but we actually have some sort of clay DNA inside us. And so they used, I would say, a bowl or a beaker or something to mix up whatever it was that they was mixing up with clay, and that's probably how we ended up with a bit of clay DNA mixed inside. And they then ended up impregnating artificially Nimna, which was Enki's half-sister, because it kept failing from the Neanderthal. And eventually she gave birth to the first one, which had broken feet. I might be paraphrasing around the wrong way. Second one couldn't urinate. Third one couldn't talk, and so on. It's all in the text. You can go read them. Oxford University website translations. It's there. Predates the Bible. Who talks about creating species? Who talks about that in the very first language ever that's fully formed language? Who does that? Unless you are already doing exactly what you said. So, yeah. Kerry's wrote to Kevin, the Sumerian tablets are way older than the Bible. Yeah, he has no idea of that, Kerry. We know, because we're not daft, but he's not. He has no knowledge of that. Brian then wrote to Kevin, his research is based on text and evidence that predates the Bible. Yeah, again, thank you, yeah. But, even Bible people should know that the word Elohim and the word angel are derived from older texts. I mean, that's just two of many. So even the word Satan is an old Greek word, if I'm not mistaken, from memory. Even though I did the video a short while ago, it's gone out of my head. But yeah, so basically everything's copied from the Bible. Copies not everything up until about Jesus' period. Then it seems to be fresh writing. Kevin wrote back to Enki, Jesus never taught religion, only salvation. Right, so the problem with me with Jesus is once Jesus was born, I don't bother looking into what he says, because, when someone's telling you something that happened 20, 30, 50, 90 years previous and saying what someone said and what they ate and what they thought, I can't go along with that simply because I can't remember what I had for dinner yesterday. Yes, I can, just about. But, knowing what someone else did 90 years before and what they said and so on, a little bit too much for me to go into. That was just a leap of faith too far. So I pass on that. So I will bow to your knowledge of the Bible, not saying it's correct, but I will pass on that. Scrolling down. I was just reading Gypsy's message to Brian. I won't read it out because it's but funny. Tarot has wrote, this is written on Sumerian tablets dated back well before Jesus, the first ancient civilization. You are spot on. It is, yeah. There's people out there that have said that the Egyptians came first. The problem we've got with that is the stories from the Egyptians actually are still in the Sumerian in different ways. So, for example, the story of Horus, or as you know him, Horus, Osiris, and Isis, their little story and set, is actually in, and I've read the translations of that. I'll have to do a video of that as Sumerian, where his name was actually Horan, not Horus. And they're very similar names, which is why you can see the Egyptians sort of got it slightly wrong, which makes sense because obviously they're trying to. I mean, all the translations have been translated wrong. Either way, we've got it in Sumerian, which is older than Egyptian still. So yeah, it makes sense that Sumerians. Of course, technically the Sumerians were only the Sumerians because that was the first land that was divided up into four that got taught. So everyone was taught in Sumeria first, which is why we've got the first money. So if Egyptians were first, as some people say, then technically we should have the first everything there, unless you're saying that they only had the first writing and everything else, including money and agriculture and laws and everything else that we got from Sumerian times, all suddenly originated in Egyptian times. We've got no evidence of that, but we do have the evidence that everything come from Sumeria. So yeah, so anyone that's religious that don't know about these older texts, please either watch my videos or do some homework if you're interested. If you want to believe in an almighty being that decided that one child is enough out of the whole planet, because there was, probably millions and millions of people all over the planet, the almighty being thought, you know what, one child in, guess where? The same place where the Anunnaki was. But hey, let's forget the Anunnaki for a second. Let's pretend they weren't there, even though we know they were there. We've got evidence, 100% evidence of them being there. We've got the names, we've got the temples, we've got everything. But anyway, let's pretend. Funny how their temples are there and God's wasn't. Think about that for a sec. If you're thinking there's an almighty being, we've now got freaking churches and synagogues and all sorts of things to worship. But all we had back then was Enlil's temple, Enki's temple, Thoth's temple, Ninurta's temple. We've got the evidence. We have found their temples. So why not God? Because it was, anyway, you get the idea. It's too easy. This is too easy, isn't it? When you've done the homework, everything's too easy. Enki's wrote to Kevin, Jesus was here to raise the frequency of the collective consciousness. Thoth has just suddenly pinned something. Host, I've got answers, you've got questions, we should talk. Can we do it next time? I might do a live tomorrow. If you're around tomorrow this sort of time, maybe 6, 7, I'll just let anyone on tomorrow. It's only because there's 99 messages now still. But tomorrow you can come on if that's okay. Sorry. I was only going to do it till 9 tonight. So Kevin's wrote, you will see when Jesus Christ returns that you are going to what you are going to do then. So we've got to wait for Jesus. Sorry, forgive me. I'm so logical. It's not your fault. It's me. So we've got to wait for Jesus to turn up before he then tells us or shows us what he's going to do, because he hasn't told us in advance. Okay, that sounds like, a skeptic would say that sounds like a cop-out, meaning you've got no idea whatsoever. But again, Kevin, when? So you've answered in a very bad way, but you've answered what he's going to do. So when, and please don't say he's just going to appear when he appears, because that's pretty much the same as saying he's going to do what he does when he turns up. Sorry. I struggle, obviously. And then Kevin's wrote, get real. One of us, Kevin, has probably got more evidence than the other one. I'm not going to name names. Kerry's wrote to Kevin, please no preaching in the chat, thanks. Kevin's wrote to Jane, Jesus is the everlasting Father. Kevin, if you're still listening, Kevin, on all due respect, if you're listening, could you just answer? One of my mods will pin it. whether or not you are aware of the older texts. Yes or no? Are you aware that the Bible copied older texts? If Kevin's still around, if you could just write yes or no. If it's yes, how the if you've done any kind of research on the older text, how the hell are you thinking that there's an almighty being simply because we've got texts? The first ever written language suddenly appeared with no previous language suddenly before that. Two princes and a king suddenly appeared on this planet. None before that. No democracy, nothing to work out who would be king. A planet called Nibiru, also known as Nibru, if you actually do your homework. I've done my homework. It's on my Patreon page on whether or not Nibru stroke Nibiru was a real planet. Go watch that documentary on my Patreon page. Only a couple of quid. You get over 100 videos, which is basically a week's worth of amazing information that you won't find anywhere else. No other researchers touched on what I touch on. So yeah, I'm guessing he's either not around because it's not been pinned, or I just looked away quickly, or he hasn't got an answer for it. Pirates wrote, "Have you heard of the Lisby theory?" I do not recall that. No, sorry. Kevin wrote, "Learn scriptures, eternal life is through Jesus, no other." So Kevin, the problem with that is eternal life. You're not listening. I know you're not. You're not. You're gonna zone out when I waffle. But it's a sensible question that you won't be able to answer because that's how my logic works. So Jesus came along 2,000 years ago. Prior to that, there was 298,000. Thank you, Avatal. Thank you for that. So there's 298,000 years of Homo sapiens. Let's forget any other species on this planet. So you've got 298,000 years. Let that sink in for a sec. 298,000 years of people around the world that had no hope of salvation because Jesus didn't come along until 2,000 years ago. Now, I know you could say, he is God, and that is a cop-out. It really is. Trust me, I've done my homework. That is a cop-out. And then you could say, he's the Holy Trinity. And of course, if you've done your homework, you realise the Holy Trinity was only made up to cover why in Genesis 1:26 it's plural. So, Kevin, how sad is it that God stroke Jesus just let 298,000 years worth of people not have any chance of salvation? Why us? Why us now? Yeah, you're not going to answer that. No one can. I'm enjoying reading people's comments to Kevin. Inkies wrote to Kevin, "Learn where your scriptures were stolen from." Fair, okay, well done. I can't argue with that. I probably wouldn't say stolen, but yeah, I for dramatic effect, I get what you're saying. Brian Johnson's wrote, "I've also seen an alien ship in person, the Tic Tac tube-shaped one." Wow. Okay, that I would love to. If you're around, Brian, I'm gonna let everyone jump on tomorrow, so I would love to hear your story on that. Genuinely, you know, if you know me, you know I love this sort of stuff. Thank you, ever still doing the hearts. You don't have to. Doesn't mean stop. I'm joking. Frida's wrote, "Hi everyone. I haven't seen one of these lives in a while. I've missed hearing all the information." Oh, bless you. I think TikTok doesn't actually push me out to many people much these days because I've kind of been talking about that's happening, which I've been saying on my go back to my lives from 2 years ago, and you'll see that the things that's happening in the next few months is I said was going to happen 3 years ago, obviously. So yeah, Garrett Gypsy Souls wrote, "Laugh out loud. Too many movies with the donkey calls. Mrs. Mexico donkey show." You've got me on that. I'm not familiar with whatever that's referring to. Sorry. Tom Crane has wrote, "Will this ever be confirmed, do you think?" Only my guess is only when the depopulation program's finished. In other words, 500 million people are left, as written in the Georgia Guidestones that was decidedly taken down once they realised that people were reading them and saying, hang on a minute, this seems like the same sort of thing that Bill Gates and Swabs are waffling on about. So they, in my opinion, they... James wrote, polite notice, no preachers in chat. So yeah, if you are religious, none of the people listening to me, following me, I would guess, because they were already aware of the older texts, will suddenly convert to any kind of religion if they're not already in a religion. So preaching probably won't get you anywhere, because the followers of me are very clued up, as you see with the questions, and so they're fully aware of these 2 million tablets that predate the Bible by thousands and thousands of years. So thank you, Jane, for putting that up. So yeah, the once we're down to 500 million, which again they're restarting up their program in the next month or so. You'll see that when they offer you this new what, and it's up to you whether you take it. But hell no, I'm not. So yeah, once they've done that, which I knew about this, or I'd heard about this from a remote viewer back in the mid to late 80s, I can't remember exactly when, about what's going to happen in the future about an AI civilization, which I thought was stupid. Now I'm looking at what's going on, I can see how an AI civilization, not run by AI but controlled by AI, and there's going to be camps which we're all going to. There's going to be 300 years of basically civil unrest. In other words, as the elites are in their lovely little bunkers, they're dumbs, and believe me, they have made underground cities. Once they're all in there and all the 500 million people are all safe around the world, even Britain's got a dumb. Then once they come back out and we're all fighting ourselves because the elites have done that. That's amazing how they make us fight ourselves, which we're doing now. We did it 2 years ago. People, oh, look at them, they've not taken the what. And they're going to do it again. But this time we are smart enough, I hope. Anyway, so yeah, once the depopulations happen, then I believe they will let everyone know, because they want to use the technology that they've got that they can't implement now, because if they implement all this free energy devices, etc., and all the tech they've got, if they implement that right now, we're going to say, where the hell did they get that from? Aliens. So they will tell everyone once it's all over, hey, here's the free energy. In fact, if you even look on, according to someone, if you look on the WHO's website, I think it is, they're saying that you're only allowed, in the future, you're only allowed to have 3 bits of clothing, you'll own no cars, they'll all be owned by the elites and so on. This is what's going to happen. It really will. No one's stopping it. But anyway, so yeah, so that's when I think they'll tell everyone what's happening. Unfortunately, someone looked like they got blocked there, and so it's scrolled to the top. Missed the chunk simply because it scrolled to the bottom. Not my fault. John has wrote, who's Anu? So King Anu was the father of Nimna, Enki, and Enlil. I think he possibly had some other children still on Nibiru, but that's the main ones. And he came to Earth a few different times, which is why we see him as Ptah, we see him as Odin, and so on and so on. We even see him as Zeus's father, Kronos. Although, obviously, the story of Kronos fighting Zeus is not what happened in the Anunnaki times. James wrote, time to 8 p.m. That's because I chat. So it is live, everybody. I'm 16 minutes behind on the questions because I missed a chunk now. But thank you, Jane. Appreciate that. That really helps. John has wrote, or Anuna. Yeah, hopefully I've answered that. Andrews wrote, something big is going to happen in the month's time. Someone said that Michael from around the world, FEMA. Yeah, I mean, anyone that's done their homework or just even looked, opened their eyes, really will see what's going on right now. I had a text today from my trying to not say it because I know TikTok listening. I'll spell it DO space CTORS They look after you when you're not well. I had a text from them saying my flu, you know what, is due, but obviously knowing that they're now inserting this new variant, new, you know what, they're putting that in with the flu jab. I have to be careful what I say, but yeah, you get the idea. So it's coming. Sorry, I digressed. Main conspirators wrote Elohim is plural noun meaning gods. That's correct. So the Hebrew word for gods, that's what they've translated it to. Obviously, when you go back to the original text, it doesn't say Elohim. It says gods or god or goddesses. Let's not be gender specific. But thank you. Yes, main conspirator, you're spot on. I know main conspirator's really been digging down deep recently, and even doing videos on his channel, which is great. Andrews wrote Tiamat's umbilical cord plasma hitting the Earth, causing the fires, powers outages. Watch Hush Puppy. Okay, I'm just trying to get that. I would like to know what you're referring to. There's a Tiamat's umbilical cord plasma hitting Earth, causing the fires power outage. So technically, Earth wasn't. If you go by the human release, Earth wasn't around to have Tiamat because Tiamat broke up and became Earth. If you go by the oldest tablets, talking about any of this kind of stuff. I'm just gonna have a quick drink. Sorry, everybody. So yeah, I don't know what that's referring to. And you say watch Hush Puppy. The problem I've got is obviously the tablets that I've read. I hate people. Sorry, I'll start again. When people say to me, "Go watch someone else," what happens is I say to them, "Are you sure you want me to watch it?" And they say yes, and then I say, "Because if I watch it and I find errors that I can prove are wrong, I can't help it. I end up doing a video debunking them." And so I try not to watch other people's videos because I don't want to be known as the person that goes around debunking everyone simply because we've got evidence, and those people may not have the evidence. So I try not to watch Hush Puppy just because I don't want to knock them down. Stay Woke is very, very interesting. Thank you. I've not seen your name before, but thank you. That's cool. And a great name, by the way. You probably just heard me waffling, so yes, we're all on the same side here. Stevie Guys wrote Good and God, Devil and Evil. Well, technically I've just done a video on Satan, which obviously covers the devil, which is again a modern name compared to the ancient texts, and it is a modern name. It comes from Diabolos. But anyway, I won't bore you. So good and God, technically no, because obviously Enlil tried to wipe us out many, many times, and so did the same God in the Bible. Just so happens. So I wouldn't say God equals good. Certainly not. And devil obviously was a made-up name, way later than the actual original events. So if you go back to the original events, like I say, I've done a video on my Patreon page, documentary called Who Satan Really Was, and it covers the devil, because you'll find that people that don't bother doing any research say that the devil is Satan, is Lucifer, is Beelzebub, is the bogeyman, is whatever they want to say, they throw it in there. And I can't handle that because I go by the evidence. So I done my homework on the devil, I done my homework on Lucifer, and I done my homework on Satan. And it turns out, I don't want to spoil it because the video is on my Patreon page, beautiful documentary, 30 minutes long. The conclusion is that they're not the same. I won't spoil it too much, but they're not the same. Certainly not the same. And they're split over a long time period, very long time period, obviously, since the Anunnaki right up till Jesus. Funny how we don't have Satan kicking around now chatting to anyone, but hey. And in fact, there's even chats with Satan where he's walking with a donkey in the Bible. And he comes across the Lord and a messenger, which we all know is not an angel, is a messenger, is just another Anunnaki, but a messenger. That's what they called them. So, really, and in fact, if you actually do your homework properly, if you go to the literal Young's literal version, as opposed to reading all the other man-made, I feel like swearing, but I won't. Man-made Bibles. Look at the actual literal translations, and you'll see he offered him a job. The Lord offered him a job properly. I mean, I know it's kind of alludes to that in the other versions, but go read the proper translation, direct translation, as opposed to what. So I did. There's, I think, what was it? Something like 30 versions of that same text where it had Satan in it. 30 different Bibles had the word Satan. And then you get to Young's version of it. So this is why I say I've done my homework. I didn't just read one Bible. I had to go through every different permutation of the made-up words. Then you get to the Young's version. And do you know what? Do you know what Satan's called? Out of all those 30-odd other Bibles, do you know what Satan is called in the proper original translation? Adversary. That is all it is. That is all it is. And that's why it's not one, it's many adversaries for many different lords and gods over many tens of thousands of years. But no one wants to bother doing the homework. And especially not religious people. But that's it. That's the fact. It's an adversary. It's basically someone that is someone that they don't want. Obviously, the serpent is slightly different. That was to do with Adam and Eve, which I will do a video on once I've got more information on that. But the other adversaries, you just go read it up, and it's all adversaries, but different time periods and different gods that's in their, in his way, and not necessarily evil either. Not evil. So sorry, I did digress there, but I like things to be out in the open and it makes sense. Fox has wrote, the Bible is a mass misinterpretation over generations and used to control with fear? ? Originally, it wasn't. If you read the Young's literal translation, it wasn't. It was just stories from the Sumerian times. But as you know, when they start adding things like Satan and devil, it's really just to get you to hand over your coffers. Because they used to, again, in my documentary on who Satan was, I go into the different religions on how they wanted Satan to definitely be there and picked up on it from a different religion to help them also boost their, worship us, give us donations. We need donations for clergy, we need donations for buildings, etc. So I go for all of that. So it makes sense for them to want a adversary, as in one adversary that's evil and that is going to come back. But if you actually, read the Bibles, you realise that those adversaries are all different. Bits for Bites, cool name, has wrote agreed. I'm not sure what I was talking about then, sorry. Gary's wrote, this is live by the way, everybody. Gary's wrote, why do you think we don't have full use of our brain, possibly blocked during growth? That's a good question. I'll tell you what, go number one in the class. You're the first person tonight. I don't know whether... See, the trick for me, the logic is, until we know for sure that another species, cat, dog, horse, anything, is using 100% of their brain, until we know that, for absolute fact, I know they could say, well, we did a brain scan, but the cat may have just been sleeping, or the cat may have just been so in fear that the front cortex of the brain was just simulated and showed up on the MRI scan type of thing. So until we know that another species has used 100% of its brain, then we can say, okay, we're not using our 100% of our brain. And why is that? But until someone can show me proper evidence that every other species is using 100%, otherwise, if they're not using full 100%, the logic for me would be that because of the evolution that every species has gone through, just like we have junk DNA, which is older DNA, that we don't have anymore. It doesn't just sort of drop out of us; it sticks with us, unfortunately. So we have junk DNA. Have we got junk parts of our brain that was used? So maybe we are using 100% of our brain that we have now as an evolution brain, but the other parts were when we was, amphibious, for example, or mammals, crawling around on the ground. So is our brain actually just suddenly, for each evolution, just perfectly 100% spot on for that species to use 100% of? But I would probably go with probably no. I would say, as soon as we got junk DNA, there's a logic that says that part of our brain may still hold old information that we don't use or can't access. I hope that makes sense. I'm not an expert on that, but that's just my two-piece worth of logic. Roberts wrote Göbekli Tepe. Oh, you mean Göbekli Tepe? I have actually done some videos on Göbekli Tepe. I've concluded that Göbekli Tepe obviously was Anunnaki, because no one else would have been able to build those kind of structures back then, and it was a silo. That's my conclusion. You'll probably find other people will eventually catch on. And the reason why I say that is because it had a housing over the top of it, and if you actually look at the area that it would have been in, which was Turkey for Göbekli Tepe, you realise that the Anunnaki were in Israel, or one of them was in Israel, which isn't too far from Turkey. Obviously, all the Anunnaki were around the whole of Mesopotamia, which does butt onto where Göbekli Tepe was, so it's not inconceivable. And obviously, if the humans were around and they didn't want the humans to get to this silo, whereas the Anunnaki could fly, and they had the humans in Mesopotamia, but not exactly where Göbekli Tepe is, then having it slightly further away from us pesky humans makes sense. And also it had a lid on it, according to researchers. So when it's got a lid on it, you think, okay, that makes sense. So it was something that was... I just see moderator James had to mute someone. If you're religious and you don't like what I'm saying, please don't be rude or preachy or anything. Just move along or whatever. So it scrolled all the way to the top. So yeah, Göbekli Tepe. Now, when you look at the ancient Sumerian tablets, which I did, and looked for whether or not they had silos, they did. They actually had silos. You can actually look at. Oh, I've done videos on it. So now we know that they definitely had a place to put corn, grain, etc., etc. Then why not Göbekli Tepe? So that was my conclusion on it. Sorry, it's because someone got muted. I scrolled to the bottom. This is live. I'm near the top now, but it's nearer to... I've missed a chunk, basically. Sorry, of questions. It's not me. AVATEO has wrote, is Jesus's Anunnaki name the same? Tell you what, go number 2 in the class for that. Brilliant question. I didn't look into his name. Again, because there's so many different names out there that people give Jesus. I mean, as you probably heard earlier, someone saying that Jesus is God. Obviously, the Anunnaki had the word Lord, predates the Bible, so we had lords already before Jesus even came along. So I wouldn't say Jesus was specifically a Lord. However, he could have been called a Lord, being the offspring off of an Anunnaki. So when it comes to his name, I've not researched that. I don't really want to, because there's just too many people out there saying too many different things about it. But from the overall perspective of whether or not Jesus' father was an Anunnaki, when I did my research into that, that gave me... There was enough backstory to cover who it would have been. Obviously not an almighty being. It would have been an Anunnaki. So I've covered that. But once Jesus was born, was it Joshua? Was it Jehovah? Was it whatever? I'll leave that down to everyone else to fight over. So I can't answer that, I'm afraid, and I probably won't ever want to dig into that, because I'd only be going where his father. I can look back and see, because obviously Anunnaki's lived a long time, so I can see who and why would have been the supreme ruler at that point, which makes sense. So I can do all of that, but I can't double check anything to do with Jesus' name because there is nothing to go back to. So I'll leave it to you lot all to fight over. MUA has wrote waffle. Okay, what would you like me to waffle about? I wonder if MUA is going to do what other people do. They listen, they say something stupid like this person here, and then they listen a bit longer, and then they start asking sensible questions. Sometimes I've blocked them by then, and then I finally get to their question. I think, oh dear, they've already been blocked. So I'll be interested. Silly Goose has wrote, "May the universe bless you all." That's very nice of you. Thank you very much. Jeff has wrote, "I am not preaching at all." Laugh out loud. Because I've missed a chunk. I apologise. I don't know. Sean has wrote, "This is true. Finally someone knows." Oh, thank you, Sean. Finally someone else that obviously knows what I'm talking about as well, as opposed to other people. So brilliant. Well done. Thank you. Anti Kroos has wrote Ad Astra. All I can think of is the bad movie that I really hated. I fell asleep, not in the cinema, which is unusual for me. I know you're not referring to the movie side of it, but I can't help but think of that. I fell asleep, and I never fall asleep in the cinema. It was that bad. Sorry. So yeah, I don't know. Again, if you want to ask it in a proper question format, anyone that's got a question, ask it in a format. Because otherwise, if you just write down pyramids, I could go on for ages. James again wrote, polite notice, no preachers in the chat. Again, to anyone that is preaching, there's no point. The people here, as you've probably heard, like Sean had just said, this is true. Finally, someone knows. So these people ain't gonna suddenly jump ship, and they know. Whoever just give me that rose or whatever it was, I missed it. Sorry. Thank you though. Sean has wrote, yes, and apparently Satan and Lucifer was made up. Spot on, spot on. They were adversaries, so they come up with a name that would work for an adversary that they could keep as one adversary all the way through. So they went back through the Bibles and looked for anything that was evil or bad, or just an adversary even, and then stuck down. Now Lucifer was only mentioned once in the Bible, which is mental. And even if you look at the actual proper translation, he wasn't even mentioned there. It was Lucifer was only in the New International Version that Lucifer's name was mentioned. So again, just a load of baloney, if you ask me, in terms of what people change. Just go back and read the original translations. IDQ has wrote, maybe because it's not time yet. Unfortunately, I've missed a chunk, and obviously I'm behind, so I don't know what that was referring to. Kevin's wrote, I've just joined. Bless you. Thank you, Kevin. Different Kevin from the other one. Brian Johnson's wrote, Jeff is right. That's what Christ is. Sean has wrote, I have so many questions. I'm going to let people on tomorrow. Obviously, probably don't chat to me for 3 hours or something. But so if you're around tomorrow. Anti-Kroos has wrote, the true is near, ad astra. Again, if it's a question, I can answer it, but I don't want to waffle on about something. Leo's wrote, a God who said, Father, why have you forsaken me? No faith, obviously. Yeah. Again, if you read the original, I won't bore you, but if you read the original translation, you'll find it says something totally different to that. Well, not totally, but something different to that. Still, Turts has wrote, thoughts on Skinwalker Ranch having materials in the ground the same as the battery. I'm glad obviously you're watching Skinwalker Ranch. It's an amazing program. I love it. I'm gutted that it ends it, and then I have to wait another year for them. But yeah, clearly now. Originally in the season 1, they talked about the Mesa having a meteorite underneath the ground from millions, if not billions, of years back. Now I don't know whether that meteorite's got anything to do with whatever else was there that's also underneath, because there seems to be things that's underneath not that far deep. And as you know, you've been watching it yourself, I'm sure. So the materials that they're bringing out seems to be, shall we say, artificial as opposed to natural in their formation, especially when they're compounded together into a flat surface. That's not something nature seems to do. So the answer to your question is obviously, what is that? I'm not. I don't really know what it is yet. I'm with you on the edge of the seat, waiting for the information to come out of Skinwalker Ranch. I mean, we can all guess at what's underneath. My guess is that if there is a craft of some sort underneath the mesa, it's actually facing, instead of it being horizontal, it's vertical, which would give you the dome when the people were using the drilling machine, when they was hitting a dome. So they was hitting the side of the top, but it's actually down the side. And it would also give the height when they have these lidars, etc. It would give the height of, but thin, because it's now sideways as opposed to horizontal. If that makes sense, it's vertical instead of horizontal. So I think, if that was going to be anything, that would probably be a UFO underneath there. I might be wrong, but I'd love to imagine it is. So yeah, I don't. We're all on our edge of our seats, waiting, hoping that they get the thing. James again wrote, "No preaching in chat. If you're religious, move along. None of these followers of mine will fall for such nonsense." But no, they know about the older text, so it's game over, unfortunately, for preaching. Thank you, Jane. Brian Johnson's wrote, "Yeah, sure, I can tell you about the UFO, but there's not much to it." Well, I'm always interested in where, what time, how far away, what it did, because I kind of store all that in my little brain. Sandy's put a laughing face. Say my name is right. Before Jesus, he was Noah. Before Jesus, we has Noah, Abraham, and Moses. I'm guessing you're saying that when I was talking about the two, I'm just guessing, when I was talking about 298,000 years of humans, you're saying we had Noah, Abraham, and Moses. They were all after Adam and Eve, which was only 100,000 years ago. Noah obviously was here when the flood happened, which again I give you was before Jesus, but they weren't gods. They didn't have the power of salvation for the people, and of course they only came 100,000 years ago, because that's when Adam and Eve were bred with the humans by the Anunnaki, as opposed to 300,000 years ago when they created them. So there's still a difference of 200,000 years that no one's looking after those poor sods. Jane has wrote to MUA, "If this is not for you, please scroll on." Thank you, Jane. Say my name's wrote, "Before Jesus," I read that one. Sometimes people repeat the same thing, which is why I guess moderators say don't preach. The Devil's Advocate has wrote, "Attention, this is nonsense. This is the nonsense show." However, those of you that's been listening more than 5 minutes have figured out, especially if you're new, figured out that, hey, this guy's talking about tablets that actually predate the Bible. There's 2 million of them that we're aware of, compared to the Bible 1,200 pages. And the Bible with the 1,200 pages has 144 inconsistencies. In fact, there was a guy doing a religious TikTok the other day. It was only a recording, and he's saying how wonderful this Bible is, and there's no mistakes. And I had to say to him, yes, there is mistakes. I couldn't help it. I posted on thing. It probably got deleted, but so when we have a nonsense show, I think people are smart enough to know that we've got the tablets, we've got the buildings, we've got the fused chromosomes, we've got the laws and everything that came from Sumeria at exactly the same time the Anunnaki said they taught us. It's too easy. Scrolling down. A name that I can't pronounce right. Hello, our true history. Oh, is this that one that I couldn't read but then ended up reading? Was it like a code? Maybe it was Atlanta or something. I can't remember. Sorry if I can't see it now. Hello, Outro History. So I came across some info that says Enki was the king of Atlantis. I would say no to that. I have got my video that's pinned to my TikTok account. So anyone that wants to watch where I say Atlantis is, that's so king of Atlantis. First of all, the brothers Enki and Enlil wouldn't have been kings, in my opinion. That was below them. So for Enki to have become a king would be that wouldn't work. That's why they had the kings list. There was kings, not Enlil and Enki. They were no. If you said another person, possibly, but not Enki. So straight away that rules that out because they weren't kings. Kings is below them. And of course, if you go by my research, where I prove, unlike other people, other researchers, where I prove that Thoth not only was mentioned in the Emerald Tablets of Thoth being on Atlantis, but also the location where I say Thoth, the Atlantis was, just so happens to have a temple. Alright, it's sunk now, but they found it. A temple, wait for it, for, guess who? Starts with Thoth. There you go. So we've got Thoth's temple that matches the Emerald Tablets of Thoth in a place that's sunk, along with a concentric city, along with so many other points that I point out. So I totally destroyed the Rickak structure idea. Totally destroy that. So yeah, so I would say Thoth was the main person because that's his temple's on Atlantis. So again, wouldn't say a king because none of the Anunnaki high ups. Now Thoth would have been Ningazida, which would have been one of the 12 main gods. So none of the 12 main gods, as far as I'm aware, were ever kings. Avato has wrote, please share who Jesus' father was. Okay, but I have put, just for you, but I have put the video out there. It's on TikTok, so you can watch it. Just scroll back. It's on YouTube. It's on my website somewhere. Just type in Jesus and then scroll down till you find the video that says who Jesus' father was. So it's there, but I will let you know for you. It was, drum roll everybody, Marduk. And the reason why it's Marduk, again, watch the video because it cues it all out perfectly, is because Marduk was Amun-Ra, and also Aten, both of those sun gods. And both of those, he wanted one true God at that point. So this is just one of many, many, many reasons. So when he genetically created Akhenaten's grandparents, or grandfather, whatever, I don't know if he did a female, but when he created them, because they are not natural, you don't have elongated heads, big hips, etc. Watch my video, I actually explain why they've got the elongated heads. Marduk, at the time of Jesus, was given the highest rank, which is why in the Bible it talks about the highest and stuff like that. So he was given the highest rank back then, and there were still other Anunnakis around, so such as probably Inanna and possibly Ninurta, who may have gone back to Nibiru at that point, or gone to the Vatican and set up a city there. Before the city was set up, he probably set up a city. So there was other Anunnaki still staying here. So that's why Marduk would have wanted everyone to believe in one true God, meaning him. And if you read the Enuma Elish, where he tries to pretend that he smashed up a planet, you'll realise that that's the kind of person he is. And obviously he'd already done it, as I say, as Atom. And when you realise that Amen, which is in the Bible, Amen, is the same as Amun, it's the same, then you realise that Amen, who was Marduk, is Amen, which is names written in the Bible over and over and over. I thank you. Please send donations to Outer of History for being a genius. But yeah, it's there. All the evidence is there. Go watch my video. I cover it so much better in my videos than I do here. I give all the evidence. I go through it all. Natalie's wrote, well said. That was for something else, not for me stating who Jesus' father was, because I'm behind on time. But thank you for that, Natalie. It's very nice of you. Melaine has wrote, this is all new to me. I just joined because I am open to learning and changing my mind. Thank you. That's lovely. That's nice. I guess in your heart you probably thought something wasn't quite right. I think a lot of people that are on here, I've heard them say, you know, how they got into this was they just knew something wasn't quite right with the Bible. Or they had an inkling that aliens was involved. I know it sounds stupid, aliens, but hey, when we land on another planet, there we go. We've done it. There's aliens out there because we would be aliens. So it's not so far fetched. And we're only, humans have only been here 300,000 years. Homo sapiens, 300,000 years. Planets have been out there for billions of years. Why is it so hard for us to understand that we're the new kids on the block? Red Storm 1, what a cool name. Is there any comments about the civilization pre-Atlantis times, e.g. Lemuria? Right, my take, I know you could go watch someone like the Y-Files videos, etc., but I've done, I don't want to knock the guy. I like him. I think he's good. So my research basically says, yes, we had Pangea, which goes way back, but the person that actually named Lemuria was a guy in 1855 or something like that, where he basically said, and this is why you should straight away work out there's an issues, when he said that millions of people died because of Lemuria sinking, or Mu as well. So there's people out there that talk about Mu as well, which is another concept. But bottom line is, before the flood, there were buildings because as I say, the Anunnaki were here for 450,000 years, created humans 300,000 years ago, and over all that period of time, they built, locations and did whatever they needed to do. So there's big stone structures all around the world. Some are now sunk, and they're sunk because of the Great Flood, which people don't seem to grasp that it was a genuine thing. I've read the tablets, the translations of the tablets out, where they're actually looking down at us on their craft, looking at us like, what was it? Their words were, fish in a barrel. That's us. They described us as looking like fish in a barrel because we're basically being swirled around from their craft. So we've got the evidence that just from those tablets alone, let alone the Epic of Gilgamesh and stuff like that. So when we've got evidence of the Great Flood, now I know people will say, well, prove it. Well, it wasn't actually a flood from the sky, it was a flood from a tsunami, because if you have a rainstorm, everything gets wet, but after a while, the water will subside. It does. However, if you have a tsunami, everything gets covered over. And that's exactly what happened with the mines that they were building or had in South Africa, etc., etc. So Lemuria wasn't really Lemuria. It was just another place where buildings were. Because if you say, "Oh, that's Lemuria," then I could say, "Well, what about the big building that's in the ocean just off the coast of China? What's that then?" "Oh, well, that's another pre-civilization before the other." No, it's not. Look at Malta. The lines go off into the ocean. The Maui statues shouldn't be half up to their waist. That's again because of the sand, dirt, and everything else. The Easter Islands should be actually a lot lower. There's a lot more underneath the ocean, but because the sea levels rose about approximately 440 foot, which is quite high. It's really high. So everywhere 10,000 years ago was a lot more places were dry, and that's where these buildings were. And whether or not some sunk because of tectonic plates, whether some sunk because of other reasons, I don't know. But certainly we had different places all around the world that had these different structures, not just Lemuria. So I know when people say, "Oh, Lemuria, Lemuria," no, they were all over the place, and they were Anunnakis, and they weren't before the Anunnaki. Otherwise, you could say Göbekli Tepe belongs to Lemuria. No, it doesn't. It's Turkey, but I'm saying it's. You could say that because it's old and not in Mesopotamia. So that's what annoys me with the research out there. So bottom line is, it's the Anunnaki just had loads of different places, just like we've got Stonehenge here in the UK. Malta's got structures. Everyone's got structures that shouldn't really have these massive structures that we certainly couldn't do back then, or shouldn't have been able to do. And so some of them got sunk. That's pretty much the end of that. And yes, people were on it, but when you got people like the bloke that come out with the name Lemuria saying that it was a particular continent that sunk, or it was an advanced alien race that was there, or it was an advanced race that was there that attacked the Atlanteans, etc. No evidence of that whatsoever. Say my name is it is to reproduce pop or to make money again after the last 2 years of profits. I would, well, I mean, literally they have said that it's the way to reduce population. They've said it many a time, but at the same time, making a few billion isn't going to hurt, I guess. Ava Toe has wrote, AI is inevitable in our lifetime. Unfortunately, it is. I use it now, and it'll be as commonplace as using your phone for people. And then, unfortunately, that AI will be the ones that will be saying to you, "You're not allowed in here. You're only allowed 3 bits of clothes. You're not allowed to eat any meat." That's also on the WHO's website, apparently. I think it was WHO's website, not WEF. That they're saying that you're not allowed to eat any meat. Of course, Bill Gates has bought up all the farmland, and Bill Gates wants us to eat bugs. So, yeah, anyone with half a brain will say, "Hang on a minute, this is all leading to something very nasty. Let's stop it right now." But unfortunately, someone today, I was just driving past, two people, in fact, today I saw wearing masks. These are the people that's going to kill us. These are the people that will genuinely follow what needs to be done, and that's sad. Sorry, scrolled all the way to the bottom. Don't know why. So I missed a chunk, but I'm near the top again. This is live, everybody. Roxy and Bentley's wrote, new to all of this. Read something about origin of O negative blood. My take is it's Anunnaki's own blood type, foreign blood type, arrived here in Mesopotamia 100,000 years ago, which is what mainstream say. And the Anunnaki bred with the Homo sapiens, physically bred with them, which explains why we have their blood type in some cases. So yeah. Mullanes wrote, may I ask, I believe if I'm supposed to, it will happen. If not, okay to? I just ask, I believe if I'm supposed to, it will happen. If not, okay. I'm sorry, I missed a chunk because of someone probably being muted, so I don't know what that's referring to. Sorry, Mullane. Don't hate me. Rogue has wrote, did Jesus get any education in the missing years? I've not, unfortunately, when it comes to Jesus' life, I can't double check it with anything whatsoever. So I can't answer that. You could go to any religious person, they'll probably tell you probably 10 different stories. I don't, the reason why they probably tell you 10 different stories is because obviously there's no way for them to double check things, so it's kind of ambiguous. So I'm sorry, I can't answer that. I don't look into Jesus' life like that. I can go up to who would have been his father, but that's about it. User 37 has wrote, nothing human is alien to me. Didn't you say that the other day on my live? Something similar to that. Andrews wrote, what do you think about I Pet Goat? Have you done a video on I Pet Goat? I do not know what that means, so I haven't done a video on that. I'm sure it's probably some. If I read it quickly, it's probably something rude, maybe. Jolyn has wrote Anunnaki was mentioned around 2144 and 2144 BC. You have to be careful with mainstream's dates on things because they need it to fit their narrative. That's why I struggle with whatever they say. I'm obviously they need to fit it all in with sort of the Egyptian dates and things like that because we have the pharaohs and we have the kings list. But we've got kings list that talks about a king being in charge for 106,000 years. Of course, they won't mention that, but we actually have the kings list that says it. So they just skip over that part. So that's why I say I struggle with mainstream dates. Melane's right. I'm going to try when I'm alone and I'm quiet. I'm so sorry, Melaine. I must have missed a chunk because of. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know what that means, but whatever it is, please do. Stevie has wrote. There's not really any such thing as aliens, but like race and supernatural. I'm alien in New York. There's no such. So what you're saying is there's no such thing as an alien. So an alien, in terms of what we're talking about, is something that doesn't belong to the planet that's there, whether it's interdimensional or not. So, Stevie, the second that we land on another planet, are we not aliens? There's no way for him to answer that, really. He's just going to have to say yes. In which case, then there is such things. Sorry, it scrolled again to the bottom. Probably religious people. Jolyn. Oh, you read that one. Sorry, I'm just trying to find. Melane's wrote Inquire. Again, I'm so sorry. Maybe you're referring to watching my videos. If anyone's interested, I do have a website called outruehistory.co.uk. It's got the videos there if you don't want to scroll all the way back on TikTok to watch them. I'm on YouTube. I'm even on Spotify. And I do have a Patreon page that covers documentaries that I don't show anywhere else. Really clever ones that you, I'm sure, would like. Details are in the background there. Jordan's wrote, where are the Anunnaki now? So the older Anunnaki would have died off, and the younger ones either went back to their home planet or stayed here, and my guess is some of them possibly did stay here and helped or started a place called the Vatican or the city there originally, and possibly are in communication with the elites to make sure the planet is run the way they want to. Not 100% sure on that, but that's my take on it. Melane's wrote, I believe that it is. Again, I'm so everything you've wrote now. I don't know whether that was something I said or you following on from what you were saying. Sorry, Melaine. Lucas wrote, the Earth isn't round, NASA lied. And then Luke wrote, we live on the firmament. Luke has no idea what the firmament is, clearly. First of all, we don't live on the firmament. But yeah, I don't even want to go into it. Anyone that knows anything about my research knows that the firmament was, and you can go look it up yourself, since I'm not hiding it, was mentioned back in Sumerian times, and it's the layer basically between the atmosphere and space. But there you go. Let me just do something to a person called Andrew. I don't trust that person. Luke has wrote, because he keeps on about something that I have a feeling is going to be rude. Luke has wrote, research flat earth, guys, come on. I have done. In fact, I've wrote 2 books, one on the round earth and one on flat earth. So I've probably researched it more than most people ever have. But unfortunately, not one person can even answer one of my simple questions on my pinned video. I have 10 questions on that pinned video. Do you know how many people's actually answered without sounding, without coming out with crap? Any sensible answer? Zero, zilch, none. So I'll stick with the globe. Thank you very much. And of course, until someone tells me that they've seen the edge of the planet, which no one has, by the way, that's a fact. More people have seen mermaids. That's a fact. A fact. Genuine. And I can prove that with their logbooks from Columbus and Blackbeard, which we have their logbooks for their ships. So if you can't name one person that's seen the edge. Bearing in mind there's 9 billion of us. We've got planes, we've got ships, we've had ships for thousands of years. Thousands of years we've had ships. And not one person has said, do you know what? I was just sailing along and there was a massive ice wall behind Australia, blowing me down with a feather. Not one person has said that. Not one. What you do get, and this is the sad fact of the matter, is you get numpties that look at Admiral Byrd, screw up what he says, and I've done videos so you know that I'm right on those. Screw up what he says, and then go to the Encyclopedia Britannica, look at the word where it says dome, and numpties think that that's part of the dome, when really, when you actually realise that a dome is a mountain, that ends that. And there's a mountain range nearby to the dome as well. So that shoots that. Basically, I shoot down everything. And I know I get told off for being debunking everything, but if numpties are out there, it's not my fault. Jolyn has wrote, it's weird how we only see space based off of what NASA gives us. See, unfortunately, you fell into the trap that NASA is the be-all and end-all. You have to remember there was Russia that was also competing. Now, if Russia knew that NASA was lying, wouldn't they have put propaganda out there and said, your country's lying to you, there is no such thing as whatever, and pretty much all the American people would be hating the American government. That would be an easy way of destroying the American government, just by letting everyone know that the Americans are lying. That's what I would have done, but obviously they didn't. So thank you, Kerry. But yeah, Russia also had Sputnik 1, etc., etc. And when you say what it looks like, literally we can see up at night. We can see through, as if you haven't got any cloud cover, you can literally see stars. And please don't say NASA put those stars up there. So we can see stars, so we know that it's black and the stars, which is what NASA shows. So unless you're seeing something that NASA shows me that I've not seen, literally it would just be black with stars. So I don't know what it is that they're. So I'll read it again now that we've gone through that. Joe Lynn's wrote, it's weird how we only see space based off of what NASA gives us, but literally what they show us is what we can see from here. And people's got telescopes as well, by the way. So you might want to reword that only because what you just said didn't quite make sense. Roy has wrote, Giza was a navigation beacon for space vessels to line up. Well done, Roy. Well done. Yes. So if you go by Zachariah Sitchin's book, which I'm guessing you have, you come to the conclusion that was correct. But when you either watch my videos or you do your own research, and you find that the actual shafts that supposedly go out to Orion, which don't, they actually turn, and then you do your research and you find that there is actually holes at the top of the pyramids, and I've proved that in my videos. Well done, me. Then you realise that the top wasn't a solid gold. It would have had a reason to have had those holes, and then you go back to the Lost Book of Enki and say, okay, that now makes sense, because the chemicals or whatever and crystals that was inside the pyramid that would have produced the light beam that would have went up into space would have needed to go through the roof, which is why there's holes in there, which I've proved. So yeah, well done. Lucas wrote, it's water above us. No problem, Luke. If you're still listening, if you could just explain how Halley's Comet goes round every 60-something years. And it's got a towel. I've seen it with my own eyes. Loads of other people have as well. So if you could just explain that, this is where Luke thinks, oh crap, how am I going to get around this? Because obviously it would need its own propulsion at a regular speed to keep coming back round in water. Because if you know anything about water, you fire a gun and a bullet in water, it will stop pretty quick. So Luke, please write down right now, everybody, Luke Bradley is going to explain how Halley's Comet comes around every 60-something years. Someone pin it up, please. I can't wait to read the answer. With a towel that's made of ice in water, which you'd think it wouldn't have a towel in water. But let's pretend it's in water. So it comes around every 60-something years. Please don't say a little man over in China sends it up every 60-odd years for a bit of a giggle. And it lasts 7 days over our planet. So other people can see it. It's not just me seeing it on one day. It takes about 6 to 7 days to go round before it becomes out of our normal eyesight. So Luke Bradley, come on, Luke Bradley. You're here to debunk me or whatever, but it's not happening, is it? Tell you what, Luke, maybe follow me, you learn something. Moving on. Luke's wrote, why is the sky blue? I know school's bad and they don't teach you much, but Luke, really? Is that your answer? That the sky's blue because there's water above the dome? Is that what you're gonna say? Is that it? Gary's, and I wonder why they want to depopulate us. Luke, please don't be the first. Gary's wrote, the best explanation for all religious faiths, we can reach our full potential as we evolve. See, I still don't get that. I still don't see the need for us to believe in something in order for us to evolve. Because I could believe, I'm the world's smartest man. Doesn't mean I'm going to evolve. It doesn't mean my children are going to evolve. So believing in something that you can't see, that isn't tangible, that has no evidence of, e.g. an almighty being, I would say don't hate me for this, but I would say would be more like de-evolve from the smartness that we are now to blindly follow something that's got no evidence whatsoever and has been changed by man many, many times. I would say people that do that would be de-evolving. Would you not? I don't know. Maybe I'm just being silly. Maybe my logic's flawed tonight. Luke Bradley's wrote, it's so obvious, meaning that the water above the dome in space. Jane has wrote to Luke, atmosphere, which is explaining why the colour blue. Luke's wrote, the sky blue equals water. The funny thing is, Luke, when we're in a plane, we're in the sky. Think about that for a second. So we're in water, and then you're going to say, no, it's up higher. The blue colour is up higher, aren't you? You're going to say it's right up with before it gets to space. Oh no, not space, water. But Luke still didn't answer my question. And when Luke's wrote, wake up. Luke, you've obviously not answered my question. You're either not here. Kerry's wrote, sir, please tell James Bob that this is alive. This is alive. I'm behind on the questions because, unlike every other TikToker, I read every single question out, which is why I stay on for hours and hours and hours, just for you guys. So this is live. Gnostis wrote, emerald tablets made up. The funny thing with these tablets, that are, with a little laughing face, by the way, this person, but the problem with that is they are actually translated in Latin, and so the oldest translations of them is about 1200. We're in 2000 odd now. And some of the things they write about is, obviously you have probably no knowledge of what's actually in them because it's quite complicated. And I don't mean to make you sound like you're thick, but thank you, Mauricio. I think I pronounced that right. But it's very hard to read, so I give you that. You may have struggled with that, Gnosis. But luckily, I'm here to help. And I have read them many times. And I have actually worked out what they're actually talking about. And when I say worked out, once I explain what they are, what the information is giving, then you're like, wow, genius. Once again, our true history knocks it out of the park. So when you say they're made up, when you're looking at things that we are only just finding out now, either they was fully aware of them back then, in which case they're not made up, or someone made it all up and we're only learning stuff now. And it just happens to match the older Emerald Tablets of Thoth. So, Gnosis, if you want to just sort of follow me and learn, so my video on my Patreon page showing you what the Emerald Tablets are for, I go through it all for you. Not just for you, but for anyone that wants to go on my Patreon page. 100 odd videos there, weeks worth of footage, documentaries, etc. So hopefully that's destroyed your little laughing face at the end, which is what I enjoyed doing. Discarded Wife. Oh, that's a horrible name. Not you. I'm just saying it sounds really sad. What about the Prophet Muhammad? What is his connection to the Anunnaki? Unfortunately, I won't go into too much detail because I did earlier, but when it comes to that particular religion, regardless of whether I've got facts that I can just literally show, that kind of people get very angry and want to do damage to me, even if I've got the evidence and blah, blah, blah. So I figured it's not worth the aggro. So unfortunately, I can't go into that because as soon as I start talking about that, they will get all upset. Regardless of whether I'm 100% correct, they don't want to hear it and they get angry and very angry. And it's not worth my moderators blocking 400 people going, they're all swearing and they're all saying bad things. So it's easier for me just to ignore that and move on. I'm so sorry. After all that, you've probably been waiting ages. Sorry, it's not me. Luke's wrote, I haven't been disrespectful. No, I don't think you have, but I think they was saying because you... yeah, I don't think you were spamming too much anyway, so... sorry, just scrolling down. Mullane's wrote, yeah, Luke, please. Luke's put question mark. Mullane's wrote, you're taking up room for the good comments teaching. Yeah, I mean, yeah, he was trying to prove his point, but without proving it, really. All he just done was said the sky's blue, and therefore, yeah. Sorry, Jessica's wrote, History and Coins wrote, I have to go after he's retired from the move. Oh, right, is that your new name? Okay, no problem, I understand. Thank you very much for coming. I didn't recognise your name there, but thank you very much for coming, and I hope everything goes well with the move. Jessica's wrote, there's a Stargate that's hidden in the pyramid that leads Atlantis. Oh, I could quite... Oh, okay, so Jessica, I don't know if you are new to me. I'm just going to see if you follow me. You don't. So it doesn't look like you follow me. So what I would do, because I go by evidence, and where I don't have the evidence, I say I believe, because I cover myself. So what you've done is you've given a fact and said there's a Stargate that's inside the pyramid. So if you could show me the evidence of this Stargate... And the reason why I'm doing this is because eventually you'll catch on in a few seconds that... oh crap, you don't have the evidence, maybe I should start following Our True History, because he only gives the evidence, and if he doesn't know it, he says he doesn't know it. Thank you, Sassy, and the other one that just popped up, sorry, I literally saw the name and didn't even comprehend remembering it to say thank you. Sorry, I apologise for that. So yeah, so you Jessica, without sounding rude, I'm just going to cut to the chase. You haven't got the evidence of a Stargate. You probably would listen to some numpty on YouTube, especially to Atlantis as well. So if you're interested, I kind of go by evidence on things like where Atlantis is. I show 14 points of evidence. Jessica's then wrote a bit further down. I out of body there all the time. So I'm guessing that's where you found the Stargate in the pyramid. So I would find that interesting because if you did have an out of body experience, it must be hidden. Otherwise, I'm sure the American military would have went in and took that Stargate. And now, if you went there, how do you know it goes to Atlantis? You would have had to have turned it on, or there would have had to have been a sign there to say this way to Atlantis. Not knocking, I'm just trying to. This is how I work. My brain goes through the logic side of it. So if you're there as in disembodiment, you probably wouldn't have been able to activate it. So that leaves the writings. Now, if you know anything about pyramids, there's normally never any writing whatsoever in pyramids except for that fake cartouche. So that leaves no writing but a Stargate, unless it is hidden and no one's found it and it's got the only writing on it. And then in that writing that would be saying this way to Atlantis, it would have to be in a language that you would understand, unless you can understand Egyptian or possibly whatever language it was, Sumerian. If you can understand that while in your out of a body experience, unless there's one other possibility, unless there is a visible trail that you can see, maybe from photons that no one else can see because you're in the out of body experience, that you can actually then follow that trail all the way to a sunken place. And please tell me, is it Heraclean? Because I think I'm right in saying that that's where it was. Moving on. Truth Tribe has wrote, Anu is Jesus' father, right? No. No, it would have been Marduk. Watch my video. I've done it. It's on. You can look at it on my website or on TikTok. Scroll back. Marduk matches absolutely everything because his name was Amun Ra, Amun Ra, which also matches Amun, which is also the same as Atum. Everything matches beautifully, and not that I want a medal for everything that I've done, but okay, yeah, I do. I just want other researchers to realise that what they say, especially when they talk about Rickak structure and that sort of crap, I kind of want other researchers to start saying, you know what, let's all start watching Our True History, because there's no point in making up crap because he just destroys us. Melena's wrote, first TikTok I've joined and spent my first penny on after 1 year on here. Oh, bless you, Melaine. Oh, I feel so bad for not being able to read whatever you was talking about earlier. Oh, bless you. Thank you. Oh, that's really nice of you. Oh, bless you. I feel bad now. I can't give you more back. But my website has, if you are interested in this, I think you was the one that was trying to say that when you find some quiet time. Yeah. Literally, I go through, spirits, time travel, Greece, ancient Greece, various different countries as well, ancients. Yeah, all in order, or as best as in order as possible. Even the, Hercules journeys and stuff like that. I go through and I point out who and what it would have been, and why it would have been like that. Yeah, so I cover a hell of a lot for someone that's not on TV and making up stuff. Kelly's wrote, the real God made the Anunnaki and Jesus Christ was a Essin. I think they were Palladian. So Kelly's wrote, I think the real God made the Anunnakis. And Jesus Christ. The problem with a real God making Jesus Christ would be the Anunnaki was superior to us in pretty much every way. Height, strength, intelligence. So for God to make Jesus Christ after already making the Anunnaki, it seems illogical to me. If I was going to make someone to go around and also, again, if I was an almighty being, there was people on every continent by then. So if I was doing, why would I do it just in the same place as the Anunnaki were? I would have done it. I would have put one person on each, at least on each continent, because Jesus in Israel wasn't going to get round to Canada, England, India, anywhere else. Too much for him in one lifetime without cars and everything else. So the logic there for an almighty being that's as smart as anything, just to put one being and hope that that being goes round to the whole planet, just isn't logical for me. So yeah, I'll stick with. Sorry, Kelly, I don't not lucky. I'm just going through it in my head. So I'll still stick with the Anunnaki created humans, and then Anunnaki created Jesus, because no one else would have, in my opinion. No one else had that tech, except for the Anunnaki, which they proved it by us being here. Sorry, I digressed. Scrolling on. Gnosis has wrote. Sorry, I couldn't help but read this. Gnosis wrote to History and Coins. It's basic research to see it's made up. I'm guessing you're on about the Bible. You're not, but you're talking about my stuff, the Sumerian tablets and the temples that mine can't be made up. You can't have temples made up in the names of the people that's written in over thousands of years by many different. Anyway, Kelly's wrote, but definitely not Anunnakis. Enki's son was Marduk, and his human son was Noah. That's correct. Enki did also have Adapa, possibly Artrahasis as well. Watch my other videos. I explain who Artrahasis was. Someone very well known, but not many people know him by that name. Which is why people seem to think that this particular person, I'm alluding to it because it's on my Patreon page. He was a very important biblical figure. Charlton Heston played him, if that gives you a clue. And I actually break down who he was and what he did and where he was. Luckily, he was around at the time of the plagues of Egypt, which wasn't actually the plagues of Egypt. It was the aftermath in Egypt. Andrews wrote, got to go, enjoyed it, thank you. Oh, bless you. Thank you very much for even listening. Madara's wrote, let it be hidden. Not sure what that means. History and Coins wrote to Gnostis, no, it's not show physical evidence in a video format to prove it. So I'm guessing Gnosis was saying that what I'm talking about with these temples and the genetic modifications and the cylinder seals and the shekels and the domesticated pigs and everything else that all matches an alien race coming here, genetically modifying us and helping us. Andrew Warrop has wrote Adam, or Adom. I don't know if you're meaning Adam as in Adamu or Adam as in Adapa. So if it's a question, it would have been nice in a full question just so I could know what you mean. Mardaras wrote, yo, I wish I could jump on this. Tomorrow I'm just going to let people come on. I know I said I'd only be till 9 tonight and I've gone over 9. That's because I care about everyone and I want to read every single question, which is why no one can say I deliberately avoid questions. I don't. If I don't know the answer, I'll just tell you. Malane's wrote, I've always known in my heart the Bible wasn't. I feel it inside of me. Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. Thank you, Malane. Yeah, it's funny, isn't it, how people just... I had that same gut feeling and loads of people I'm sure did. It just didn't seem right. There was just too many... a God that wants to flood us and kill us, and also in Revelation, but no one really talks about that. And a God that needs a chair, needs a lapis lazuli chair, Book of Ezekiel. So any religious people, why does he need a chair? Seriously. Why is he called a God of Israel? Why is he called the highest? You only get God of Israel if there's other gods, and you only get highest if there's one possibly lower or a few lower than the highest. Otherwise, there's no point in saying the highest. So yeah, there's too many discrepancies. I agree. Joe Lynch wrote, "Wait, if you believe in the Anunnaki, you must believe in heaven, right? Space. It's space. Literally, the word heaven is space. We obviously didn't work out that that's what they was talking about. If you look in the Book of Revelation, where I can't remember his name, goes up and goes into heaven, and he sees a door open. Seriously, a door open in heaven, and then he goes in, and there's a council of, there's a chair, throne, which he had lights and buttons and stuff. If you actually read it properly, you'll see that it's lights and buttons. And then there was 24 elders sitting around God, the Lord. 24 elders, older than God. Really? And that's in space, that's in heaven. And if you actually check that all the people that go to heaven in the Bible all come back down alive. And don't say they was taken up to heaven because it was something that God wanted to do. And when you actually read the books or listen to audio books of the Bible, you'll find that the descriptions of taking someone up, like I think it was Ezekiel, gets taken up in a whirlwind. Not magic, whirlwind. Funny enough, the Anunnaki used the same description for one of their craft, which predates the Bible. It's all there. It's just... And of course, the Anunnaki talk about Lahmu in heaven. Lahmu is Mars. They talk about Kingu in heaven, which is the moon. They talk about stars in heaven. So does the Bible. In heaven, which is space. So to answer your question, Jolyn, I do believe in heaven, which is space. RH Ancestors wrote, who the new moderator? Kerry. Kerry, who's been following me for a very long time, I've noticed. So, yeah. And then the other moderator was someone that's changed their name. Obviously, they want their name kept quiet. To now History and Coins, I think it is. But yeah, it was a regular moderator. But the new one today is Kerry. So thank you, every moderator, by the way. Kerry's wrote to Power of God. You don't have to be here. You can scroll on. I didn't read anything from Power of God, which means they probably got blocked or left. So Zenedalu has wrote, some of us predate the Anunnaki. Are you saying some of the Homo sapiens sapiens, or certainly the Homo sapiens? Are you saying some of us predate the Anunnaki? So we're here we're here 300,000 years ago, Homo sapien. If you're on about hominids, yes, absolutely. But Homo sapien, according to mainstream, came here 3,000 years ago. Some say 280, but let's go with 3,000, 300,000. Because majority of them are saying 300,000 years ago in South Africa. Funny enough, when you break down the Anunnaki's tablets from Shah's, and where they genetically created the first Homo sapien, it was in Africa 300,000 years ago. And they were already here 450,000 years ago. So the Anunnaki predate Homo sapiens, but not hominids. Andrews wrote, the extra lands, the moon is a map of Earth. What do you think? So I've already broke down Admiral Byrd's extra land. Totally destroyed numpties for even thinking that he said what he said. I showed his same video and I actually explained it for silly people that didn't quite grasp. I'm not saying you, I'm saying the silly people that didn't quite grasp what Admiral Byrd said because they didn't use logic. But I've done a video showing what he actually said. And of course no one's debunked me because no one does. So that's that. And as for the moon of the shape, the image of Earth on the moon, I don't think it is. I can't see the logic in a let's just say the moon is a spaceship. I can't see the logic in them imprinting a copy of Earth onto it, especially if Earth does change, as we know, like Pangea, etc. So that means the moon would have had to been modern in terms of after the flood, which means the moon would have had to have been here prior after the flood, in order, unless someone went and rechanged it to match the new shape of the planet. Which I doubt if someone's going to go back up there. I mean, I might be wrong, but go back up there and change it. So let's say then that it was done. The moon was brought here or flew here after the flood. That means the ancient texts that predate the flood, when they're talking about Kingu, the moon, means that the moon was here before the flood, and even the Enuma Elish talks about the moon. So that I struggle with that. But if it's a mirror, it's kind of a poor mirror, because obviously a mirror would possibly show colours, maybe some better structures. So it's I don't think it's a mirror. So for me, the logic isn't there for it to have been done as a copy of Earth. But that's just my take on it. History and Coins is wrote to Gnosis. Go check out his videos. He shows you where you can check it. So I'm guessing Gnosis didn't understand that I actually had evidence, abundance of evidence, and not me. It's there. I didn't make the evidence. It's just all there. Thank you, whoever's doing the hearts. The name that I can't read is wrote. So came across some info. Are the great aliens the Ajiji? No, the Ajiji are younger Anunnaki. We've got carvings of them without beards, from the period that would have been when they didn't have the beard. So in other words, they were teenagers of their time. Obviously, teenagers still very old to us, but teenagers to the Anunnaki. And the Ajiji were sons of God. They weren't little greys, and they were the ones that ended up coming down. They were the sons of God that took the daughters of man. So they wouldn't have been sons of God if they were alien little greys, because obviously they wouldn't have been the sons of Anunnaki, which were the sons of God. So no, the greys, my opinion from my educated research, is the greys first sort of showed up about 3,000, maybe 4,000 years ago, or BC possibly. Mullanes wrote, okay, I got it, cool. Mullanes wrote, you can now, I think. I'm not sure what that's referring to. Danny's wrote, is Bill Gates a lizard? The logic would be no, simply because if you're that public, same as the Queen was, very public, and if you was a lizard and you let one thing slip accidentally, your tongue come out or your eyes showed that they're slit or something, when you're that in the public eye, it would have been easier for a lizard to control Bill Gates by saying, hey, do as you're told, otherwise I'm going to beam you and your family up and put you on the sun. So it would have been easier to manipulate someone than it would be to be someone and be in the public eye. Now, if they weren't in the public eye, then we wouldn't know whether they were reptilian anyway, so it doesn't really make much difference. So the answer to me would be no, simply because it just doesn't make sense. Would you want to go onto another planet and shapeshift into one of their species and then go around and do lots of dangerous things that people have worked out that you're up to no good, like we've worked out that he's up to no good? It just doesn't make sense to me that he would be a lizard. Larissa's wrote, I think this, I don't read books. Larissa's wrote, I think this, I don't read books. And then put some symbols and then a little heart face. I don't know what that means. I think this, I don't read books. I do read some books, yeah. Ones where I not other researchers. I try not to read other researchers, but Worst case scenario, if there's one researcher that actually, researches and there's no other evidence I can get from anyone else, then I have to, go by them. So, for example, there's a guy in India called Pahi Marvan. I think he's amazing. I think he's great. There's only one or two things out of all of his videos that I kind of disagree with, and I do check what he does as best as possible. So, if I do read something, I will go and double check it. I won't just take their word for it, as you probably can guess. Malane's wrote, "Me too. I was homeless, and it was me." Oh, sorry to hear that. I have no idea how that would feel. Wouldn't even want to imagine that. So all hats off to you. I hope everything's working out for you now. As they say, the old story is you're only one or a couple of paychecks away from homelessness, and it's for some people it really is the case. Andrews wrote, the so-called meteorite craters are where the waters below opened up geysers. So what you're saying, I'm guessing, reading between the lines, is that the firmament won't let meteorites through, even though people have filmed them and seen them. But let's pretend that they don't come through. And so the meteorite craters that we have, for example, the massive one in Arizona, was actually a geyser from the water below. Now, I do believe there's water below. I mean, I've said that for years, and now mainstream's actually slowly starting to admit that there's water below the crust more than what they actually thought. In fact, more than the actual oceans, according to researchers. There's more water in below our Earth than there is in the oceans. So I would say no to the meteorite craters being made by that, because technically if water was coming up, it would have had to have stopped. Then it would have had to have sealed itself with no trace. I'm just going through the whole logic of it. And then I mean, do geysers produce that shape? Now, when you look at the moon, it's also got the same shape. So you'd have to ask yourself, does a geyser create that type of impact crater? Forgetting the fact that we do have meteorites and people have seen them, and some meteorites have actually gone through people's houses in the past. And then we had that massive one in Russia back in 1912, if anyone remembers that. Now, I know there's some people out there that will say it was aliens or whatever, but it literally brought down acres and acres of trees. So it could have been a weapon of some description, granted. But yeah, no, I would probably still say that meteorite craters are meteorites from meteorites. I guess your argument could be, I'm sorry, as you see, I go through every permutation. Your argument could be, well, hang on a minute, where is the meteorite if it created that crater? That would be my argument. Instead of saying it was water, I would say, well, where's the meteorite? Now, my take on that would be, well, if it's from another planet, or from our solar system, and it's not from Earth, it may have different minerals on it. I mean, look at what India done with a meteorite. They put it in a box. They built a wall around it, and now they go there every year and pray to Mecca and kiss the wall where this meteorite is, and that's a meteorite, and that's a fact. So, if meteorites did land there and may have had some sort of elements in it, not necessarily gold, but elements that may have been useful to people either back then or whatever, or even more modern times, then you could say, well, maybe they took it. The other option would be it destroyed on impact and then spread out, which I guess could be the case as well. Sorry, I digress, but I like to go through different permutations of things. RH negative is right. There's also ancient cities under the sand dunes in the vast wilderness. I'm guessing Egypt. Or do you mean somewhere else? I don't know what you're referring to, whether it's American military or ancient, because you're saying, oh well, you did say ancient cities. Um, are you referring to those caves that literally go on for miles and miles? Uh, thank you, Melaine. That are carved in, and literally thousands of people lived in them. I guess you could call it a city, if that's what you're referring to. Thank you, Melaine. You don't have to. Now you started, you ain't stopping. Stop. Um, thank you. No, honestly, don't. Yeah, it's nice. I appreciate that. Thank you. Um, I can't wait for you to watch my videos, Melaine, and hopefully enjoy them. Andrews wrote, Devil's Tower was a biblical tree cut by the angels. Why couldn't it have just been a tree? I'm guessing what you're saying is a biblical tree, e.g., was in the Bible. But there's a couple of other trees also, or shall we say, monuments or structures that look like very similar to that around different places. So why is that one in the Bible? Isn't the Devil's Tower in Wyoming, if I'm not mistaken? If it is the one in Wyoming, which is America, that would be very interesting, seeing as the Bible, if you read the Bible, everything that I can pertain to seems to be around Mesopotamia area, which is just happens where the Anunnaki is. So for the Bible to talk about something specific in a different place is very interesting, because it's, if that's the case, but you would need to definitely prove that that's what it's talking about. So yeah, I don't know on that. I'm struggling on that. Sorry, it scrolled all the way to the bottom while I was talking. Just trying to find where I was. Sorry, nearly there. Talk amongst yourselves. Lizard, Bill Gates, Snake. Okay, I think I'm up to where I was. Crypto, 10% on the battery. Cryptos wrote, we are not real, simulation. Thing is, even if we're in a simulation, I think, therefore I am. So to me, it's real, regardless of whether it's a simulation or not. So I can still live my life and die at the end of it. So I know people go on about it's a simulation, but there's not a lot you can do. You still live, you'll still die. It's not like we can say, let's unplug from it, because we don't even know where we would start. So even if we was, it's not much we can do about that. Joe Lynch wrote, have you considered the Book of Enoch to explain this great flood? Because like the Anunnaki has a different story. I've actually done a video on my Patreon page to do with the Book of Enoch, because I knew that. Oh, Brad's just gave me a seal. Oh, that was so beautiful. Thank you, Brad. I've never seen a seal like that. I wanted to kiss it. Oh, that's cute. I had a mouse at work yesterday, and it looked sort ill, so I put it in a bucket and gave it food and left it in the bucket overnight and went back and it was dead. Poor little thing. It was only a baby. Yeah, so I've done a breakdown, like I've done with Book of Emerald Tablets. I've done a breakdown of the Book of Enoch on my Patreon page. Sorry if I sound like I'm pointing you to, but I mean, for a couple of quid, you can just cancel the subscription, but you get a week's worth. You even get the audio book, which I'll be releasing the second next chapter tomorrow on my Patreon page. So my Patreon page is really well worth it, in my opinion. Honestly, it is. But yeah, so I do a breakdown of the Book of Enoch, so it helps understand who people were, what they were talking about, and things like that. So it sounds like I'm really bad pushing you there, but I do cover a lot of it on that video. Sorry. Obviously, I'm cagey on telling information that's on the Patreon, because obviously all my Patreon users would think, what's the point of going to his Patreon? And I add a video every week, in fact. So this weekend will be another video that's not talking about anything that I've seen before. AQF has wrote, was Jesus black? I haven't looked into his skin colour. Except, didn't he give off a radiance? And guess who else gave off a radiance? Noah. And what colour was Noah? White with blonde hair, which is why Lamesh was upset when he realised his wife had cheated on him. And that's how he figured it out. So I would go along with no, he would be pale-skinned or olive-skinned. Don't hate me if you're black and want him to be black. That's just my take on it. You can do your own research and try and work it out yourself. Andrews wrote, bugs and be happy and own nothing. Yeah, spot on. Mullane's wrote, yeah, what about the Book of Enoch? Like I say, I feel really bad, Mullane. I have done a whole breakdown of the Book of Enoch on my Patreon page. There's so many videos on my Patreon. There's a 3-hour documentary on spirits where I sit and edit, properly in that. I don't just film the screen for some of these documentaries. So sometimes I do film the screen, but it's widescreen. It's 16:9, and it's only because I'm reading out the text at the same time and using my mouse and that, so it makes it easier. But the other documentaries, I show footage, I show evidence, and all that kind of stuff. So yes, Book of Enoch I do cover on my Patreon page. Sorry, don't hate me. Maybe worth going there just to have a look and see what's there. You might find stuff that you might really want to watch. Celibate as wrote, there's no alien. Cosmos is one. Of course, until we land on another planet, in which case we're now aliens. In which case there is aliens. Mullane's wrote, have you ever been... Sorry, Mullane's wrote, never been tested, jabbed or stick. Good for you. Well done. Well done. We'll live to fight another day, I hope. Scroll down, people chat to you. Mullane's wrote, I can't say I'm trying to learn more than the Bible and out of things together. I can't say I'm trying to learn more than Bible and out things together. Yeah, watch my videos, and then, if you want to go back to the Bible or anything, feel free. Kiki's wrote, why did they leave us? I'm just checking, hang on, what was the 6% on the battery? Why did they leave us? So here on Earth, they had headaches, a big problem for them, because we're on a ball that's spinning way faster than their ball, and we're nearer to the sun, so some reason caused them a lot of problems here, and they didn't like it. And so that's one reason. Second reason is some of them did die while they were here. We know that because we've got text like Gilgamesh, which literally tells you where he was buried. Literally. So so basically if they left us, they would have left us because their planet's better for them than us. If we went to their planet, we would probably die within a year. We'd live and die in a year. We'd be sleeping probably 15 times in one of their days. We'd be sleeping for 8 hours, 9 hours, whatever, or 12 hours, whatever long you sleep on their planet. So we wouldn't live very long. So would we want to live there? Probably not. So that's the same as them here. Joe Lynn's wrote, if you believe in spirits, do you believe I'm good and evil spirits, and that they have the same light energy? So I'm just going to plug if I can find it, because I need to answer this. So basically, I have done... Okay. So basically, I have done a video on my Patreon page. I will get to your answer, but I've done a 3-hour documentary that covers The light energy beings, which are the ones that join with our pineal gland 3 to 4 months in the mother's womb, which is matched up with the Quran, which is matched up with clairvoyance, medium, and spiritists, which is matched up with the Virginia University's research, etc., etc. I'm getting like bloody what's his name now, and I keep saying etc., etc. Sorry about that. I keep doing. I watched a clip of Willy Wonka where at the end he's like and etc. So now it's stuck in my head. That's how I remember things. They stick in my head. Don't don't ask me about how I get home at night. But so anyway, so yes, I've done a 3-hour documentary on covering the light energy beings and another type of entity, which, if you read the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, which is why I struggle with that person that said they're made up. Yes, I know I'm the only person that's worded out, but when you read it and you put down that the night or dark is an entity, because there would have been no night or dark back then, or at the beginning of the time there would have been no dark or night. Sorry, someone's just wrote blasphemy. Oh, I can't wait to get to that point. Stay there if you're listening, and Necropolius. Stay there. I want to ask you a question which you won't be able to answer. Oh, I love doing this. Sorry. So yes, I do cover the bad ones. Now, when I say bad, we would perceive them as bad. They're the ones that would possess us, but to them, they're not bad. You know, is a flea bad because it's sucking on your blood? Is it evil? No, it's just doing what it does. Thank you, Brad. So when we say evil, to it, it's probably not evil. But yes, so I do cover that on my videos as well. Not only on my Patreon, but also on my TikTok videos, which are on my website. So yes, there is, from my research, there is a negative type that's not good for us. So Necropolius has wrote blasphemy because I've used the name God. So let me ask you a question, Necropolius, if I'm even pronouncing that right. Oh, this is going to be fun, everybody. Necropolius is thinking, yeah, I'll be able to answer this. So, Necropolius, there are 2 million tablets that predate the Bible. That's a fact. You can't deny that. That's the end of that. Now, in those tablets, it talks about a race of beings called gods and lords that predates the Bible. Now, in your Bible, there is no mention that God allowed any race to call themselves gods or God. Is that correct? Yes, it's correct. So, is there any mention in your Bible that there is God allowed another person to be called Lord? Not just one, but many. In fact, all of the Anunnaki also are called lords. Technically not all of them, the 12 main gods. But so when you've got 12 calling themselves lords, and then we've also got Lord Shiva and Lord Vishnu and so on. But so the question is to you, you're thinking, oh crap, where's he going with this? How come an alien race that predates the Bible, that genetically created us with their texts, which is a fact, they say that, there's no denying that, that's what they wrote, and they also are the same ones that worked for 6 days and then on the 7th day said, let's have a day of rest, but let's pretend you know about that. So, when you've got a race with 2 million tablets talking about gods and lords, how come that's not blasphemy? Everybody, this person's quickly typing away. Oh, it's because God allowed the whole of the Anunnaki to be called gods. Is that right? Is that where you're going with that one? Or, no, they knew about God and stole his name. Is that what you're going to go with? Or, God actually didn't write it in the Bible, but yes, he allowed all of them to use the word God and lords. And just so happens, God, your God, needs to sit down 22 times in the Bible. What? No, he doesn't. He doesn't. He's amazing. He doesn't need to sit down on. He does, actually, 22 times. Ah. Well, what kind of chair does he sit down on? A lapis lazuli one. well, hang on a minute. Enlil had one of them made for him. Enlil being the god of Israel. But in the Bible it says God of Israel had a lapis lazuli chair. That's too much of a coincidence. So anyway, he's not replied because he's just been destroyed, so that was obvious. Sorry. I do like doing that to people when they say things like blasphemy. You ain't going to be able to answer it. Mullane's wrote, so I'm so invested in his live. So many firsts for me here today. Thank you so much. Oh, you're more than welcome. Oh, that is why I've been Mullane. To be honest, I should have finished at 9 o'clock, but you are the reason why I kept going because of what you said earlier. So I do have other lives, where people's asked me, more about Bigfoot, and so basically I got 40 years of all this paranormal kind of stuff. So unfortunately, because of what I put in the background, people ask me the same sort of thing over and over, but it's fine. Jenny's wrote, only one person worth listening to here. I'd like to think you mean on TikTok, and that's me. That's what I'd like to think. Pebbles, what a cool name, has wrote. So you're saying we're aliens? No, we've got hominids were genetically modified by an alien species that we've got evidence of. And we were their product from genetically modifying a hominid, and that's why we have fused chromosomes. The only other things that have fused chromosomes seems to be the same creatures that the Anunnaki talk about bringing down from other planets, which is pretty impressively weird, isn't it? Isn't it? Unless that's God, blasphemy. Oh crap! Shit! Excuse me. Shouldn't have said that. Angel has wrote Enki. Yeah, I spot on. As regarding, well, not aliens created us. Yes, Enki, so definitely. CJ wrote, space is fake. No such thing as aliens. Earth is flat. As a flat torus field. Unfortunately, CJ, I've already covered and destroyed someone when I asked him a question, and he just didn't know how to answer it. I'll ask you, CJ, just to knock you down a little bit. So, CJ, explain how Halley's Comet comes around every 60-something years. And don't say it's in water, because if you know anything about water, you need to be propelled. So, CJ's just been destroyed. Moving on. Sorry if I sound rude, but it's just I get fed up of people that think they know it and then don't. Espresso God is right. I was summoned on behalf of the Hermetic Order. Okay. I don't know what to say to that one, sorry. Remember to ask for custard cream biscuits when they summon you next time. Pebbles has wrote, I've seen a video that there are Egyptian artifacts found in the Grand Canyons. There is, yes, there is indeed. And what that was they were mining for materials in the Grand Canyon, or just off the actual edge of the Grand Canyon. And so they needed a place to stay while they were mining for said materials. And those said materials ended up back over in Egypt. I sound like Bashar, don't I, when I'm closing my eyes and being pretentious. But at least I don't pretend. I won't lie to you, unlike some other people, not mentioning names. Bashar. So that's what happened, and there's evidence of those mines there, and there's evidence of the materials that they mined back over in Egypt. Now you got to ask yourself, how did they get from the Grand Canyon to Egypt and back with vast amounts of quantity of the minerals, etc., that they was taking out? Do you think they carried it across deserts and everything else, or do you think there was spaceships involved? And that's why you'll find artifacts of Egyptians there. AJ Lovett is right. I've found the same conclusions and have been researching for 15 years. Lloyd Pye got me started. Oh, brilliant. See, it's not just me. Thank you. I'm so glad, because I worry sometimes, because I'm out here on my own thinking, especially when some of those other researchers come out with crap. I'm thinking, oh God, they're all going to think that I'm Crazy, but no, it's great. Yeah, Lloyd Pye. I mean, I'd love to chat to you. Maybe if you're around tomorrow, come on and we'll have a chat about Lloyd Pye. So yeah, tomorrow I'll let people on, and just we'll chat away. Be cool. Jumbo has my man. You have drank way too much of the Kool-Aid. So that's a non-believer, which is really stupid. Seeing as there's 2 million tablets, there's temples, cylinder seals, and oh jeez, too much out there. Watch my videos and you'll see the evidence is there. I'm just gonna have a drink. Speaking of Kool-Aid, sorry, I've got a wee milkshake there actually that I bought for my son, so it stops him from going into nicking milk. Um, Malane's wrote, "It won't stop. Laugh out loud. Okay, with me, and yes, I'm watching your videos, but not until you go off the live." Oh, bless you. Try and watch them from video one onwards. Honestly, if you have to go to my website or YouTube to watch them in the sets, because literally, I talk about the Eye of Horus. I use this as an example, but I talk about the Eye of Horus. But if you don't watch them in order, when I start talking about the spirits and stuff, you'll think, "What's he on about?" So it kind of does flow in an order, and I would love to know your thoughts on the videos once you've watched them. Madel Niff has wrote, "Hi from Hybrid." Oh, hi. Um, That's a hybrid. Oh, cool. I won't ask personal questions like what would you prefer to be called. But no, welcome. Thank you. Looks like you've been watching for a while as well. Thank you very much. It's a good job I'm not shy sitting here with people listening to me. Michelle's wrote okay with sunglasses. Bertie, that's a new person's name. Wow, that's near exact of what I think. Nice one. Oh, brilliant. Thank you. Yeah, I can't remember, I'm not sure what I was talking about at that point, but yeah, there's honestly the evidence is out there. You know, if you're interested in the Anunnaki, either watch my videos or read the Lost Book of Enki, and then watch my videos, because I actually show in one of my videos, I show where Sitchin, but I don't use Sitchin, where Sitchin would have got his information from with the evidence, and that's the one that tens of thousands of people has watched. That's the one that's called evidence that the Bible basically talks about the Anunnaki instead of God, and not one person. How proud do you think I am? Not one person has even said I'm wrong, let alone with evidence on that video. And it's only 30 minutes long on TikTok, or 40 minutes actually. I think I put 40 minutes up on TikTok, but there's hours more on the Patreon page. I only put 40 minutes up to get people to go and watch it on the Patreon page. But yeah, so yeah, the evidence is out there. Thank you, Bertie. Brian Johnson's wrote, "I can't wait to join your live tomorrow. I want to trade thoughts." No problem at all. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what time, but do look out, because obviously my boy will have lunch and stuff, so I have to make sure he has dinner. Jumbo's wrote, "Well, at least this proves that not all the nuts are in the US. I'm guessing you're saying I'm a nut. Fruit and Cadbury's, as we used to say." AJ's wrote, "Wow." Again, not sure what that was for. Pebbles wrote, "A guy found Egyptian artifacts on his land. The ground sunk in and the cave showed up in pens." I'm not aware of that one. That's cool. I'm guessing that's Pennsylvania. I'm guessing pens. Yeah, I'd like to know more on that. So if you're around tomorrow and you want to jump on the live, we'll have a chat. Courtney's wrote, "That's a lie. The Anunnaki is the serpent race." So when you say serpent race, don't say I lie. Don't ever say I lie. Otherwise I'll come over there and slap you. The reason why you shouldn't say I lie is because a lie, which obviously you're not smart enough to comprehend, a lie is when I say something and I know the truth. And now you would have to then prove that I know the truth in order for me to have been saying a lie. Sorry, it just muted someone. Let's scroll all the way to the bottom. So now I've got to try and find that silly person. that called me a liar. Sorry, everybody. You know that I don't don't lie. If I don't know the answer, I'll tell you, but I won't lie to you. There's no point. Crap. It's missed because it just scrolled all the way to the bottom. Now I missed that person. What did he say? What was it he said? That's a lie. The Anunnaki. I can't remember what he said. Crap. Sorry. I'm trying to remember. I know it was only 2 seconds ago, but that's once I read a question, I sort of forget it literally a second after. Crap, I can't answer whatever he was talking about now. But don't tell me I lie. Otherwise I get angry. Leo's wrote fear of God. So I've scrolled to the top and I've missed a chunk now, unfortunately. Leo's wrote fear of God is the beginning of all stupidity. Leo's wrote fear of God is the beginning of all stupidity. But God wiped us out. Literally, it says it in the Bible. It says it in the ancient texts. So why wouldn't you want to be fearful of someone that creates genocide? I would. Sorry, Leo. I'm just throwing that out there, and that's not even to mention the book of Revelation. There's loads of things. I've done a video on how many times he actually tried to destroy us, and kill us and kill people. There's a lot, but obviously religious people probably don't grasp that. But yeah, so no, I would fear the person that's quite happy to do genocide. I really would. Bessie has wrote, I've got the golden ticket. Well done. Yes, that was me when I was just talking about Mr. Wonka. And who wants to watch the new Wonka film? Not me. I'd rather go back and just stick the old one on. Sorry, it's just the way I am. Yeah. Well done for getting the golden ticket, Mr. Slugsworth. Hugs has wrote Enki and Endil all the way. Yeah. DH wrote, how would I investigate whether the spirit are true or what you say is true about the spirit beings? So I did, over the years, I've been doing this for a very long time. Over the years, I come up with, you can probably tell my logic is, I use logic to work out things. So when I got to the point of talking to clairvoyants, mediums, and spiritualists, I wrote down a long list of things for them to answer, questions. And then I collated the information. This was all for myself. I didn't do it for anyone else. I was just hungry for knowledge. So that's how I got my first sort of proper factual answers on spirits and mediums, etc. From about spirits from them, and then obviously people like Dolores Cannon. Now she's crap on aliens. Sorry if you're a fan of Dolores. I've totally destroyed her. I don't want to. I'm just saying when she said that us humans were formed at the same time as the universe and that the aliens are teaching us, and I've got a video showing that she said that. So we wasn't here at the beginning of the universe. So, but when it comes to spirits and past life regression, she's brilliant. So I listened to her, read books on what people like that said. So the answer to your question is and I've also done my own Ouija board where I ended up asking my own questions, which was genius questions. No one else, as far as I'm aware, has ever even thought of the question that I asked. And I was doing the Ouija board with my mum. Sorry if you've heard this before, but it wasn't even a Ouija board. She, very briefly, she was waiting for my sister. There was papers cut out in a semicircle with ABC, and my sister hadn't turned up, and she asked me would I do it. This was when I was skeptic at spirits. And I said, okay, so I thought I'd catch her out, because you now know that I'm a very logical person, so I thought I would test this to the nth degree, even if it does move. And so she was asking for my dad, is he there? And it started moving. I took my finger off, obviously, because I wanted to test it, see where she was pushing it. My mum looked at me and said, put your finger back on. So I put it back on, and I was testing, seeing whether she was pulling it. You can trust me, I was testing it every single way. And she was asking questions, and it was moving, and every periodically I kept taking my finger off. Um, and she said, "Where was he in a pub?" He said, and I was like, because my dad used to love pubs, but I thought this is stupid. How can he be in a pub? Mum's definitely psychically moving this bloody glass. Can't be in a pub. This was before I learnt about how spirits work, and so I then said, using my intellect, I said out loud, "Can you read my thoughts?" And it went to yes. So I said, "Okay." And I said, "Mum, I'm going to ask the question in my head." Because I still thought it was Mum. So it's going to move to the answer, so you won't even know what the answer is. So I sat there, I was sitting there, and I thought, right, my dad can't spell, so what can I do? So I thought, I'll just go to the letter J. And so I said, go to the letter J, and the freaking thing moved to the letter J. And it stopped. And my mum was expecting it to spell out a word, because obviously I said, I'm going to ask the question. She didn't know that I was just saying, just go to the letter J, and the freaking thing went to the letter J. And I was like, oh crap. Okay, my mum's not that good. She's not a mind reader. So I asked 5 or 6 times different things, different letters and different words, and it went to all of them. And at that point, I realised spirits were real, and I had no choice but to believe it, because I wasn't pushing it and my mum wasn't pushing it. So that answered my question on spirits. That's one way of finding out, I guess. Oh wow, it's 1:15. Okay, I'm going to take a few more questions nearer to the bottom now. Sorry, and then I'll have to shoot. I can see a lot of people suddenly joined, but I will be on tomorrow night if you are around, people. Okay, so I'm going to take a few questions quickly. Claire Harland wrote, "This happened to me with the Ouija board." Brilliant, brilliant. Hopefully not a bad experience. Mine was a good one. But I do hear Martin's wrote, "Pubs. I love pubs." Yeah, my dad did as well. The funny thing was, after that, obviously I started. I've been researching aliens, Bigfoots, all that kind of stuff for years. But spirits I avoided because I thought it was stupid. Really, I didn't want to look into it. But after that, I went head first into it. Had to really. Just scrolling down. Malane's wrote, "Yes, I did." I missed some again. I feel like every time you write something, I keep missing. E. Mitchell, or Michael, has wrote, "These are the beliefs straight out of a comic book. Come on now." E. Mitchell, hopefully you're still around. Hopefully you're listening. Just do me a favour, Mitty. I'll read it ever so quickly. If you could just explain how 2 million tablets in the oldest known language first appeared with no backstory, no pre-language that built up to that language. It's suddenly fully fledged language, everything fully fledged, including dictionaries that we actually still have now of theirs. If you can explain how these 2 million tablets that predate the Bible talk about things that actually are real. They even talked about the asteroid belt, which we only found out about 200 years ago. Just explain how these tablets, E. Michael, how these tablets had all this information that we have only just been finding out about recently. If you just tell me that, E. Michael, and then when you realise you can't, feel free to just type, "I'm so sorry, Outer History, you're amazing." No problem at all, E. Michael. I'll take that, because I am amazing. Thank you. Brian's wrote, "I'm getting a Ouija board. Be careful." That's another day, another story for another day. Of talking about spirits and what can happen with Ouija boards. But the trick is, very briefly, if you do get one, you don't even have to have a Ouija board. My mum used freaking cut out piece of paper and a glass upside down on a table. Literally, that was it. You don't have to spend money. But the trick is, apparently you have to close it down by saying certain things. I can't remember whether my mum did or not, but after that I started learning these things. So you have to close it down, and best thing to do is not actually have it in your house. Do it somewhere else, so that you've got less chance of a bad spirit kicking around, and e.g. a person. And also, sometimes do be aware that sometimes spirits evil spirits, when I say evil, people like Bill Gates, if they were not alive anymore, will lie to you and trick you. So not all the time, but sometimes they do, and they'll pretend that they're someone that they're not. So just be very careful with those boards. Jarvis wrote, "Are you saying Jesus is Anunnaki or his father was Anunnaki?" His father was Anunnaki. I have done a video. It's on TikTok. It's on my website, altruhistory.co.uk. It's on TikTok. You just scroll backwards. It's on YouTube as well. And I go through the evidence to prove that Amen, is his name, which when you watch my video, you'll go, oh, it makes sense. How come everyone else on this planet didn't even think of it except for Outer History? Not a problem. It's all right. No one probably bothered. But yeah, when you work it all out, it's the evidence is there, and I tell you who the Anunnaki was as well and why. So far, no one's told me I'm wrong. Lady Jessica's wrote, okay. Brad has wrote, what a breath of fresh air your live was. Oh, thank you. Thank you. That's why people like you and Melaine, the reason why it's gone over an hour and 17 more minutes than I should have. Thank you very much. And the funny thing is, I put those in the background, but I do chat about Bigfoots and all sorts of other stuff. Bigfoot's technically my favourite, but people seem to want to know more about Anunnaki and eight. But to be honest, when I put Jesus or God, that's the ones what get the most people listening on the background. Even though to me, once you realise they're Anunnaki, isn't it? That's the end of it. But there's a lot of people out there that don't. But thank you, it's very kind of you to say that. Really made my day. That as Purple Punk has wrote, "Love your lives. Could listen to you all day." Oh, thank you. I am actually on Spotify. If anyone wants to go and listen to other live chats, and my website's got a podcast section where I talk to not only you guys but other people. So there's ones on there about the RH negative. That one's amazing. You should go listen to that if you're interested in the extra phenomenon that RH negative has. It's with a lady called Philomena, and she's on TikTok under Blue Moon Sigma. I did a live chat with her. I let her basically talk because there's no point in me talking. She was amazing. So if you're interested, yeah, there's loads of stuff on my website. Basically, it's the easiest, best way to say it. Altruist.co.uk. Healing Connections. Kimmy's wrote, "You believe that we are all one consciousness." So we're just containers, as abductees have been told by grey aliens. We are containers. That's it. And what we're containers for is the light energy beings that are eternal, that's mentioned in the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, and spirits, and clairvoyance, mediums, etc. So we're not eternal, and when we go back round in reincarnation, the orb that joined with us has our memories, because it's just like a hard drive. Imagine taking a hard drive from one computer to another. Does it mean that the files that's on that hard drive was created on the new computer? No. Does it mean the new computer is accessing the memories or the files of the that was on the old computer? Absolutely. And that's exactly what happens with us with reincarnation. The spirit entity, light energy being, whatever you want to call it, that goes back round, joins with another person. If that person somehow accidentally accesses the memory, which is why you get people when they have near-death experiences that can suddenly play the piano. It's a different orb, different light energy being that joins with them, because they died, that orb buggered off, and then suddenly this person gets resuscitated, so a different orb jumps in, and that's why they can speak different languages, different. It all makes sense when you look at it. But so we're not one consciousness, but the orbs are. But we're not, unfortunately. We do die, and once the spirits, when we die, we're connected with the spirit, because we're basically connected with it now. We're in control of it for a period, but when it crosses over to the next plane of existence, spirit mediums can't contact it anymore, and that's when it takes control again, and we're now gone forever, other than a memory in its vast memory that it's been joining with millions of people. Sherry's wrote, "Mwahaha, Anthropology 1, Geneticist 0. Probably missed something there, Sherry, but um, well done. Australians wrote, "Don't play with them." That was to do with Ouija boards, I'm guessing. Mullane's wrote, "What's your first name, please?" Mine is Mullane. I hide nothing on here. I want to be me. If you don't, I do a lot of different things, Mullane, and over the years I found that if for whatever reason, especially me talking about Anunnakis being gods and whatever else, what I try and do is avoid people hating me and then finding all the different things that I do and then causing problems on those different things. So it just makes sense to keep everything separate. Unfortunately, it's a sad world, but that's just the way it is. Um, Gary's wrote, "Is there a film TV show that relates in any way to your expertly researched views?" Um, so thank you very much for the kind words. Uh, TV show. I've written a script, which the producer's got, which he's sent off to. We're just waiting to hear back now. Actually, we've sent all the paperwork to the investors, and we was going to leave it till Friday, but my producer was in hospital. He rang me today, so he's not checked his emails. So I'll probably catch up with him tomorrow. Anyway, so the script actually covers a lot of the stuff, not all of it, because it's 4 movies worth. But is there any TV? I mean, there's some Lost Book of Enki type animations out there that I think a Swedish company done that's dubbed into English, but or subtitled into English. But nothing set other than my videos, I guess. Um, Nothing that covers all these, because a lot of these things is my own research and no one else has come up with these stuff. So I guess only my videos. Sorry, probably not the answer you wanted. I know if it was me, I'd be like, where can I just go to YouTube and watch stuff? But my videos are on YouTube. I guess it's mine, really. A lot of, yeah, sorry. Mullane's, oh, scrolled all the way to the bottom there. What happened? It's just about to read Mullane. Yeah, okay. Mullane's right. Want to say, please message me and tell me just personalising you from afar. So I actually use, because I do different things, I actually have different names for different things. Forgive me for that, but that's just the way. So when it comes to this Our True History, on Facebook and stuff, I call myself Mark. That's not my name. But so people that desperately need my name, I use Mark for this particular thing that I'm doing. The film, I use a different name. Other things that I do, I even use Julie for other things. So in the past, I haven't used Julie for a long time, but and no, it's nothing to do with me being kinky. It's just I was just using different names for different things. So yeah, so if you want to call me Mark, Brian Johnson's wrote, look up Billy Carson. I just seen um, Brian Johnson's wrote. Brian? Have you been watching my videos where I show Billy doing? In fact, the last few videos were Billy saying silly things that he shouldn't have said. Um, so it's up to Gary S, because Billy said to Gary S, go watch Billy Carson, but I've got videos where I'm showing Billy Carson's really making rookie mistakes. There was another one actually. Someone sent me a video again today. Was it today? Last night. Of Billy Carson saying something, and Billy Carson said that Thoth didn't wasn't a god and didn't want anyone to worship him. And then he went on for about 3 minutes, and I had to write on there because someone had sent me the video, so I had to reply. And I said the problem with that is actually in Heraclean, at the bottom of the ocean, which is Atlantis, Thoth's temple was found. So yes, he was a god, and yes, he did want people to worship him, not a religion, but just worship him. So straight away, right off the bat, there's another video there that Billy's, and then he went on 3 minutes, and then I had to write, I'm not going to tear into him with the other mistakes, so I'll just say that one and leave it at that. I don't want to be known as the guy that tears other people down. It's not my thing. Sorry. Kim has wrote, we are told boards are bad because you may let a bad spirit in. Is this true? It is, yeah. Well, from everything that I've researched since then, like I say, I didn't really cover spirits and me, all that kind of stuff until after my dad passed, and I did the Ouija board myself. But yeah, literally, there's so many stories of people bringing home, even when they didn't do the Ouija board. In fact, my friend at work, they did a Ouija board with a glass, and the Ouija board was moving around and everything else, and then they took it. This was he was at a boarding school, and they took the kids took the glass after and tried to smash it for some reason. I can't remember what he said, and it wouldn't smash. This is just normal, drinking glass. So they took it out into the playground and was throwing it at the wall, throwing it at the floor, wouldn't smash. And so when you look into these things, you find that it's the entity's probably in the glass, which is why it didn't smash. Eventually, they managed to break it, but it was like they were just shocked, and he still remembers it to this day. So there's so many stories of people saying that they brought home with them, even when the board wasn't at their house. More obviously at the house, that stays there, and spirits, turn lights on and off or whatever. Just some of them are just malevolent, not necessarily benevolent. Some of them just want someone to be acknowledged. Really, you got to remember, if you look at it from their point of view, if you had something to say, you want to tell your loved one that you love them, or anything, the diamonds are down the back of the sofa, or whatever it is, you would do. If you found someone that was managed to communicate with you, you would do whatever it takes to try and keep that person in contact. You would be flickering lights saying, "Hey, I'm here." I mean, just look at the film Ghost. I'm here. Why can't you see me? So you would probably do the same thing, I would have thought. But yes, there is ones where there's bad spirits that do follow you home, and people end up having to move house, or all sorts of problems they cause with them. So if you don't have to do it, I would go to a reputable medium or clairvoyant or spiritualist. And the reason why I say reputable, ask them one question first. And religious people, please turn away if you don't like what I'm going to say. When you go to any medium spiritualist, ask them, is there a heaven? If they say yes, say thank you very much, goodbye. Don't pay them any money. If they say no, it's higher or lower frequency, which is what it is, then say thank you, brilliant, okay, cool, let's go for it. And you know that you've got a good one that's not lying, that's not making up crap. So even Dolores Cannon said there's a heaven. And obviously, if you watch my videos or just do your own research, you realise that heaven is space. Heaven, that was the name that was called space, because otherwise you can see heaven, because you can see the sun, moon, stars, etc. in heaven, which is what it says in the Bible. So there's so many things that in the Sumerian tablets where they're talking about going up to heaven all the time. So when you forget the Bible, but when you look at the Sumerian tablets where that first word heaven would have been from, and they're going up and down like yo-yos, then you know that it's space. So hopefully that helps with the Ouija board side. Lady Jessica's wrote Australia here. Hi, Australia. Good day. You knew I was going to say that, didn't you? Sorry. And then Lady Jessica's wrote frequency. Not really a question, or not that I'm aware of. But yes, technically everything is a frequency. you're probably wondering how I'm still going with my batteries because I plugged it in and I shouldn't have done because I should have finished an hour and a half ago. Like I love my QF as wrote. Can I join your live tomorrow? I'll do a live. So I should have finished an hour and a half ago. So I'm just reading up the last few questions, although they turn into another 99. So I'm gonna be as quick as I can. So tomorrow, if that's okay. Nikki Lee is right. I'm just happy that Jesus and his existence is never denied. At least that's something. Uh, yeah, that's a fair point, I guess. Yeah, I believe there was a character called Jesus, and I believe, although I believe he was genetically, artificially inseminated into his mother. But yeah, Martin's wrote he will be. I'm not sure what that was referring to. Just scrolling down. Just Lady Jessica's wrote Australia here. Yeah, hi there, Australia. Malane's wrote I've played the Ouija board and I've played Light. Sorry, I've played Light is a feather stiff as a board. It worked both real. I played Light is a feather stiff. I don't know what that one is. Not heard that, but hopefully it all worked out for you. Sassy's wrote so a Ouija boards open negative portals, and as I'm gifted, do not do it. If you can astral travel, you'd know. And then wrote, don't do it. Yeah, I mean, ideally, don't do it because you have no idea who's coming through. Um, Kim's wrote, I've never tried one not knowing. Yeah, you know, like I say, when I did it, I didn't. To be honest, I thought my mum was just gonna be, pushing it really. So that otherwise, if I knew what I know now, I wouldn't have done it. Really, I wouldn't have. But back then, I was a bit naive on that side of it, and I thought it was all. I thought she was faking it. Kim has wrote, "Thank you, you're welcome." Tara's wrote, "Don't do it in your own house." That's what I said earlier. To do it somewhere else. Although there are cases of people having these things following them, but yeah, you're right. Don't do it in your own house. Do it in your enemy's house. That's probably the best. Lady Jessica's wrote scared. I love my as wrote. Please let me join. Again, if you round tomorrow, because I need to finish. Should have put my boy to bed half hour ago. A as wrote. Yo chat, you think that God is sorry. Yo chat, you think that God's real? The alien race that's called gods, that's got 2 million tablets that tell us that they're gods, yeah, they're gods, but not what you think. They're just an alien race with the race named gods, no different from human. Java's wrote, okay, thank you. Love my QF has wrote, please. Again, tomorrow if that's okay. Janie's wrote, open circle and close circle and keep planchette away from board when not using. Thank you. Hopefully people don't really go and do it, but they will. King Botti, or however you pronounce that, forgive me. You familiar with Bashar the ET? I'm familiar with the guy that closes his eyes, and at the same time that he's ready to go live on TV, the aliens that are with him, that channel through him, are also awake and ready to go live. And I've not done, I'm being nice here, I've not done a video where I show when he was younger that he was researching all this kind of stuff. Actually his video, not mine, I show his video. And as luck would have it, just so happens that he's been researching all this kind of stuff, the same stuff that the entity that suddenly decided to channel through him is also talking about. And that bit of coincidence that he didn't need to research this because he's now got a spirit or type entity channeling through him. That was a bit of luck, wasn't it? An alien spirit that. But unfortunately, Bashar, or the guy that does the Bashar, he's not got a great memory because they've cocked up a few times, and I've caught them out a few times where he's said different things. So yeah, you know what I'm saying. I've done a couple of videos. I don't want to bash people. It's just what I don't like is when people say to me, "Go watch Bashar," or "Go watch Billy Carl," or "Go watch for whatever." Um, I don't like that because I can see where they go wrong, and I've got evidence, and I'll prove them that they're wrong. But that's it. I don't want to be known as the guy that keeps knocking everyone down. RH negative has wrote, "Teacher, your voice is soothing. Thank you for all you do for us." Oh, bless you. Um, I thought you was going to say something else there when your voice is so. Oh, look. Oh, God, what is it? Thank you. I love my QF has wrote, I am trying to, but you won't let me join. Yeah, no, I should have finished an hour and a half ago. That's why. Um, okay, scroll to the bottom. So I'm just gonna read the last 10 because I keep saying that, but and then there'll be 20. Essentials wrote, trance channeling is very real, and as the vowel continues to drop, many more will do so. Thank you. I don't recall seeing your name before. Thank you for joining. Mulaney wrote, "Who cares how old anyone is?" I don't. I missed some because I jumped to the end. Is I Don has wrote, "He is channeling the Orion evil aliens." What, Bashar? Okay, you won't. You're not gonna want to watch my videos on how he gets things wrong and how. How to just say it? He's not channeling. But if you want to believe he's channeling, great, great. But no, he's my opinion from my research and the fact that I've caught him out many times, and the fact that I've got videos of him actually saying that when he was, or videos of him young with hair, saying, "Oh, I'm researching the Anunnaki." Da 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 da. You put all that together, and obviously, when you realise that I can show him. Sherry's wrote to Firebird, "Sorry, Jesus is in the chat." Oh, my son. Oh, bless. Because I've got, as you know, my Google calls me God. But it's up to you if you believe Bashar. I know which one I believe out of me and him. Church of Boya has wrote, "Jesus Christ for life." I'm not even going to go down that road. Someone has obviously swallowed something that someone's pushed down their throat. Without, and I say that nicely because if you do research, then you realise that the Anunnaki were here. Obviously, if you haven't done the research, then you'll believe that Jesus is the be all and end all and is going to come and wipe out the elites, which is not going to happen. In 1,000 years' time, people will still be saying Jesus is going to be our saviour. They were doing it for 2,000 years. See, Jesus is our saviour. At what point is he coming back? He's had 2,000 years. I'll give him another year. Asius, king of the Myrmidons, has wrote, Earth and it's placed just perfectly on the places to explode in a frequency wavelength, which I'm trying to find the next part. Increase the atmosphere and magnetic field of the planet. I feel like I've missed some things there that you would have been talking about. Sorry. Shannon's wrote, "Lantern is fragments of thoughts you don't need in your outer body except where you lose ground." I'm not sure what lantern is. You've got me on that one. Brian's wrote, "Yes, I was skeptical about Bashar also." Yeah, I mean, I've just watched my videos. He's one of them. He contradicts himself as well. But I've got one on Patreon page because I don't want to be known as the guy that's putting out videos knocking everyone else. Seems like I am the guy, but what can I do? I just don't want people telling me I'm wrong. Aces read that bit. Ron has wrote, "What do you think of reincarnation exists?" Yes, it does, but it's not us. It's a light energy being that joins with us when we're 3 to 4 months in the mother's womb, stays with us all our life. When we die, we're connected to it. We travel it around, we float, we move pennies, we knock glasses over. Eventually, that light orb that we're joined with will cross over to the next plane of existence. That's a fact from clairvoyance, mediums, spiritualists, and anyone that's done serious research, such as Virginia University. Then it goes back round, joins with someone else, and you can access the memory sometimes, depending on whether you're in a trance or hypnotized or whatever. You can access the memories in that orb going back. Normally it's the first one first, and then, which was the last one, and then the one before that, and the one before that. That's why you can have past life, many past life, multiple past life regressions. So yes, it does exist, but it's not us. It's just our memories, just like a hard drive. Lynn Medea's wrote to tell us more. I'm going to be doing another live tomorrow night. I've got a website and I've got 1,000 videos on TikTok covering all these things, Bigfoots, all sorts of stuff. 40 years of research, all there for you to watch if you're interested. So JT is right. Pyramids is 12,000 years old. I would say, and so if you're saying 12,000 from now, I would say 11. Give or take. So you could be right. It could be touching the 12. So yes, I'll be interested to know how you got that figure. Is Adonis right? Bashar timeline imploded and Cam went back to his timeline and try and hijack ours for their benefit. I'm guessing you believe in Bashar then. Just happens Bashar knows what people said back in the days of the Anunnaki, even though they admit they weren't here on Earth. It's impressive how they can do that. But it's so impressive they can remember what the Anunnaki did and said. However, they can't remember which species they used to genetically modify to create us humans, because he's on 2 videos which I've showed side by side. He's named them differently each time. Now, this is an amazing being, this Bashar from another planet, that can't remember what he said before. I don't know. I'll leave it to you. I'll stick with our true history. I'll rather go watch my own videos than watch his, without sounding rude. Ron has wrote, what do you think? Malane's wrote, what time is your live time or United States time? I normally do 6ish UK time. So depending where you are in the States, you've got different time zones there. But normally 6ish till about 10. But as you see, I normally go over that. Church Aluba has wrote, I'm not preaching. Ron has wrote, what do you think? I read that one. Rondo, same question. Shannon's wrote, all religions basically lead and explain same things in different titles or names. Same inners. Yeah, I kind of agree with that. Rid, I'll just call you Rid. Just watched a video on YouTube by Astral Legends about Jesus, and it said the same. Same as me, saying that Marduk was Jesus' father. If so, I'm guessing they watched my video, because no one's gone down that rabbit hole like I have. Ron has wrote, what do you think of read that one? Ron, this is live, I was just reading out every single question. Jay Kimball's wrote, cool with your studies. Thank you very much. Eyes Dom has wrote, you might be right, by the way. Thank you. That's what I like to hear. I don't like being wrong. That's why I cover my bases whenever I do any of these videos. That's why there's evidence with these videos if you want to go watch. Certainly on my Patreon page, I really go deep into the evidence. The Vitamin House has wrote, thanks for the breakdown and everything. I could listen to you all day. I subscribe to your Patreon. Oh, bless you. Thank you. I hope There is videos coming out every week, so it's not just a one-off. So enjoy whatever's there, and there's a few things that I want to try and crack. I think I've cracked the Nazca lines, not the lines, but the actual mountain range. I did a documentary on that, which I think is genius. No one else has done why the mountain range is sliced off for a few miles, perfectly flat, except me, and I think my evidence is pretty compelling. Yeah, basically, hopefully you'll enjoy whatever's there. That's great, thank you. Sherry's wrote 6 p.m. is 10 p.m. and 2 p.m. UK, depending which coast you're on. Thank you, Sherry. You're my new Google now. I'm going to start asking you for things. Sherry, what's my name? Your name is God. Sorry. Once it passes 9 o'clock, I start going funny. Tim's has wrote Revelations 22:16. Jesus says, I am the morning star. Yeah, you do realise that... are you looking at the New International Version? Your name is God. Thank you, Sherry. Are you looking at the New International Version? Because you've also got to remember that Lucifer in Revelations was, if in the New International Version, was the morning dawn. Brown Eyes, however, in the original version, he wasn't Lucifer. It was Adversary, I think it was. In the proper version, not this crap version that people keep changing. So if you go back to the actual original, you'll find it's Lucifer's name was Adversary. Huh. Brown Eyes, I agree with you. I don't think Bashar is... No, he's not. No. Not when you make mistakes, rookie mistakes, from an alien race that's that intelligent that they make errors on simple things. Yeah, just no. And I've done. I could just pick any video of his and pick a hole in it and show the evidence where he's wrong. But obviously, I don't want to do that because everyone will be after me. Terrific Falls has wrote aliens are plausible. We've got literally the tablets to sort of say it, and we've got the evidence. I keep saying it, but we already have. Melane's wrote, thank you, Kerry. Nice to meet you. I'm Malane. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Shanna has wrote, if 10 people went to school, same years, same everything, each 10 would be different answers. Yeah, I think that's where you was talking about religions and stuff earlier. Yeah. Ree has wrote, indigenous in Australia say Anunnaki is real. Yeah, I mean, even well, thank you. Yeah, even obviously, even the what's the tribe called? Dogon tribe technically have said it. I proved in one of my Patreon videos that the Dogon tribe actually talk about the Anunnaki as opposed to Sirius, because just watch the videos, you'll see. It shows you how stupid people are when they. It's too easy. Sorry, I'm worrying about my battery now because it's on 2% again. So it will cut off any second. So I'll probably have to say night now before the battery dies. I know I could plug it in, but I'm supposed to put my boy back to bed at 10, and I'm supposed to finish this at 9, so I'm well behind. So thank you very much, everybody. Yeah, it's now on 1%. So thank you very much, everybody. I will do another live tomorrow where people can come in and chat to me properly. I have a website, outrohistory.co.uk, and I have a Patreon page, and I am YouTube, and I'm Spotify. And I'm signing out now. So thank you very much. Thank you to all the moderators that's done a great job again, as always. And take care, everyone, and I'll hopefully talk to you tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.